To follow the script.
We have rules here, you know that. And if you don't follow the rules, then what are we?
One man stands tall in the face of adversity.
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
A man who rises above the ashes of hot takes.
What do you care what they say?
Easy for you to say they all love you.
It's just noise, man. You're really good at it. You might be great.
That man is Nick Kostos, and this is You Better You Bet.
If loving sports is wrong, I don't want to be right.
Where narratives are challenged and the truth is spoken.
I told you what was going to happen last week. If you didn't listen, that's on you.
This isn't talk, it's perspective.
It's not what you look at that matters. It's what you see.
This is You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
What's up, everybody? Happy and merry, tremendous Sports Thursday to you and yours. This is You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports, as we bring you the fastest show in all of sports. The show presented today and always by BetMGM. Make it legendary by downloading the BetMGM app and visiting BetMGM.com. And on this Thursday morning, the world of sports absolutely buzzing. And we will get to all the big stories, including the Washington Commanders are very, very excited about their new look defense. And I am too. But where I'm concerned is the offense around Jaden Daniels. I'll explain a little later in the show. I have got 4 questions as far as it concerns tonight, Game 6 in the Western Conference Final with the Oklahoma City Thunder and the San Antonio Spurs. I will ask and answer those questions, because it's a solo radio show. I will ask and answer those questions to illuminate you on what to expect tonight, Game 6, as we can have the NBA Finals all set, Thunder Knicks, or get a Game 7 Saturday night in Oklahoma City. And I know the calendar says May 28th. But September is right around the corner. And I am going to get you exceptionally excited for what's to come. And I'm not talking about what you're expecting me to talk about. Oh yeah, it's time to get pumped up for the fall. Bets for tonight will close the show as per usual. 310-840-4910 is the phone number, 310-840-4910. YouTube.com/@thekostos. I'm on all social platforms at the Kostos, THEKOSTOS. And 4 amazing guests will join us on the show today. Just a quick promotion of that. Justin Termine, NBA Radio. He made news this week. Didn't vote Victor Wembanyama first team All-Pro in the NBA. We'll talk to JT about that later this hour. ESPN National NFL correspondent, the great Sal Paolantonio. Next hour, the voice of the National Hockey League on ESPN and ABC will call the Stanley Cup Final. Sean McDonough in the final hour, and our friend Anthony Dubbundo from The Ringer in the final hour as well. But we officially begin the tremendous Sports Thursday edition of You Better You Bet with an impending breakup in the city of brotherly love. So I'm thinking this morning about the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm thinking about Jalen Hurts, and I'm thinking about AJ Brown. And a song pops into my head. And it's one of my favorite songs. I actually think it's a pretty underrated song in the, I want to call it history of music, but let's just call it in the last 50 years of music. It's kind of been designated as a yacht rock song, a classic rock song. The song is We Just Disagree. The artist is Dave Mason, and the song came out in 1977. Now, perhaps you haven't heard of the song, but my sense is you know it. You've heard it before, even if you don't recognize the name. The chorus is, there ain't no good guys. There ain't no bad guys. There's only you and me, and we just disagree. It is a tremendous, tremendous, tremendous song. And that song pops into my head when I think about this relationship and the impending breakup between Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown and the Philadelphia Eagles. Today is May 28th. Monday is June 1st. And June 1st is the day that we have been talking about for quite some time this NFL offseason. Really? Since the Eagles lost the wild card game at home against the 49ers and the back-to-back 4 Verts calls at the end, and Jalen Hurts missing Dallas Goedert on that 4th down, and the Eagles losing that game as a favorite to the 49ers. And I came on this show Monday morning after that happened and told you the Eagles need to trade AJ Brown, not because he's not great. He is great, but this has clearly run its course. And a lot of Eagles fans and NFL fans told me, you're crazy. Why would you do that? They would never trade him. Well, looks like it's going to happen. ESPN's Adam Schefter and others have been saying for a long time, June 1st is the target date for financial reasons for the Eagles to move AJ Brown. And it has felt like a fait accompli, a certainty, a lock, that AJ Brown would be a New England Patriot. Well, we are, in all likelihood, and things can obviously change, see the Max Crosby situation. We are, in all likelihood, just a couple days away from this being a reality. To the point that at Patriots and Eagles OTAs yesterday, both starting quarterbacks asked about this potential trade. Let's first take a listen to Patriots quarterback Drake May talking about a hypothetical A.J. Brown trade to Foxborough.
Yeah, I think it's part of the NFL. They throw names around there, around every team, depending on whoever looks best in the graphic and the jersey on social media. So, I'm really just focused. We got some new guys in here that I'm working with, and I know there's some, a lot of talk with that. But, if he ends up being on our team, great. What a great player. And if he doesn't, we still got to work with these guys here. So it's a tough balance, but I know he's a phenomenal player.
There you have it. Drake May obviously knows the deal. His head's not in the sand. He's not an ostrich. He's well aware of these rumors, as is basically every NFL fan, every Patriots fan, every Patriots player, and every Patriots coach, including Mike Vrabel. who may have a couple other things on his mind, but Mike Vrabel's certainly aware of his former player in Tennessee, AJ Brown, likely coming to Foxborough. So that was Patriots quarterback Drake May. Here is Philadelphia Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts.
How would that affect me?
Picked the right question to sip on, huh?
Do we have more from Jalen Hurts on AJ Brown? Okay. So that's Jalen Hurts taking a long sip of his water, being asked about AJ Brown potentially being traded. So Jalen Hurts obviously knows the deal. Jalen Hurts knows that AJ Brown is about to get dealt. And there is a huge on-field football ramification of this potential trade for both these teams, for the Philadelphia Eagles and the New England Patriots. Let's start off with New England. And we said basically all season last year, and the Patriots were able to make up for it because of the schedule and because Drake May was sensational, obviously, and Mike Vrabel's a really good coach. But the Patriots really lacked a number one alpha receiver, and their receiving core kind of lacked in general. And Stephon Diggs, obviously, both due to on-field and, more importantly, off-field stuff, no longer on the team. So when we look at this new-look Patriots pass-catching group around quarterback Drake May, I think it's really impressive. Now, let's assume that A.J. Brown is the number one receiver for this team, which I think is a really safe assumption. Here's A.J. Brown and Romeo Doubs. A kind of an underrated move, right? The Patriots signed former Packers receiver Romeo Doubs. Now, I'm not insinuating here that Romeo Doubs is a number one receiver, because if you're looking for a number one receiver, you would not ask, "Wherefore art thou Romeo?" Because he's not that good. But as a number two receiver, Romeo Doubs is tremendous, and I actually think he's underrated. So I love that. A.J. Brown is the one, and Romeo Doubs is the two. And then you've got Matt Collins, and you've got second-year player, last year's rookie, Kyle Williams, who's a nice deep threat. I'm assuming Kayshon Boutte will go back to the Eagles as part of this hypothetical trade. Pop Douglas, and the latest in a long line of undersized white Patriot slot receivers in Efton Chisholm. Plus Hunter Henry's back at tight end, time to play the game. And I really like Patriots rookie tight end Eli Raritan, to the point that I have him in a number of dynasty leagues, dynasty fantasy football leagues that I'm in. That's a good receiving core. Way better than what Drake May had last year when, if you'll remember, he barely finished behind Matthew Stafford in MVP voting. Like, almost was the MVP of the National Football League in year 2. Okay? That's the Patriots' impact. How about the Eagles' impact on the field? Because we need to think about the Eagles this year as if A.J. Brown is not part of the team. Okay? Here's Devontae Smith. I love Devontae Smith. Can Devontae Smith be the true alpha number one? I think that's a fair question. The answer remains to be seen. Here's Dontavian Wicks coming over from the Green Bay Packers. They signed him to an extension. Dontavian Wicks, to me, has always been kind of like this hypothetical, right? Like, in theory, Dontavian Wicks is great. And then when it comes time for reality, he's dropping everything thrown his way. Doesn't mean he can't be good. Just being honest about that, right? Hollywood Brown. I prefer Anaheim Brown. Sacramento Brown. He's usually not Hollywood. Sometimes he's, like I said, like here, pick your Temecula Brown. Pick a city in California for Hollywood Brown. First-round pick, Mekhi Lemon. Second-round pick, Eli Stowers. Dallas Goedert still there as well. And a first-year offensive coordinator in Sean Mannion, who's going to run a Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan-style scheme, which is obviously new for Jalen Hurts, and Hurts has talked about being attached at the hip to the play caller. And look, I'm one of the biggest Jalen Hurts fans out there, right? You know that. I think there are fair questions to be asked about how this is going to go, especially without A.J. Brown. Because look, if Drake May had this pass-catching core, and I love Jalen Hurts, you'd feel pretty confident in it. But Jalen Hurts has kind of got to show that he can get it done in this new, and I think that's fair, that he can get it done in this new scheme. So this is gigantic, what we are on the verge of here. The Eagles, who have been one of the premier franchises in the NFL for quite some time now, are about to lose, and we'll see what the compensation is. My sense is it's going to be a 2028 one. We'll talk to Sal Paolantonio about this later in the show. My sense is it'll be a 2028 first-round pick, not a 2027 one. I have no inside information, but that seems to be what makes sense. It's a 2028 one as opposed to a 2027. So we'll see what the compensation is, right? But this is something that you can't create an argument, even if things had reached such a point in the locker room where you have to make the deal, and I think that is the case. You can't make the case that the Eagles are going to be better on the field without AJ Brown. Like, he's too good. Even with the schism in the locker room, AJ Brown's too good. And it obviously really, 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 really helps the New England Patriots. So huge on-field ramifications as a result of this. And we will spend more time on it next week when we believe that the trade will be consummated. But there's a lot more going on here than just on field. How's it going to impact what happens on Sundays, Mondays, Saturdays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, holidays? We may be like 3 to 5 years away from the NFL inventing a new day of the week to play football on. I guess this, we're going to be playing every single day. So it ain't just Sundays and Mondays, no, or Thursdays. No, we're going to start playing football every single day of the week. It's way more than that. There is a human element to this that I find to be a little sad. Because I think it's something that all of us, and I think you actually have to be of a certain age to relate to this. So if you're a younger listener or viewer and you don't fall under this umbrella, under this purview, it's not your fault. I think you have to reach a certain age to be in a part of your life where you can really empathize and understand what's happening here. When we are kids, all of us, me, you, everybody, the friends that you make, whether they're your childhood friends, your high school friends, your college friends, you kind of have that. Maybe it's just me. I think it's probably everybody. You have this sense that these people will be your friends forever. That you'll always have some type of connection to these people. There'll always be someone that you can call on the phone, shoot the breeze with, talk sports, whatever it is, right? And as you get older, there are different seasons, and I usually hate that expression, that turn of phrase, the different seasons of life, but it's as you get older, you realize it's true. And as you reach different seasons of your life, you realize that for whatever the reason, and it doesn't even have to be something bad has happened or an argument has happened, you grow apart from people. And I'm not trying to paint this as some human tragedy. Like, there are real tragedies, things to get really upset about in life. So I'm not trying to paint this as one of those things. But it is an unfortunate reality of the human experience. And what's happened here, and it plays out on a national scale in front of all of us, right? Because of the high profile of these men, right? Of Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown. What's playing out here is the deterioration, to some degree, of a friendship. And what, for all intents and purposes, has appeared to be a really, really strong and important friendship between these two young men. They've known each other since they were in high school recruits. Hurts commits to Alabama and tries desperately to get AJ Brown to Tuscaloosa before AJ Brown decides to go to Ole Miss. When AJ Brown somehow unbelievably goes in the second round to the NFL draft, who's sitting next to him? Jalen Hurts. Like, literally on camera sitting next to him. When AJ Brown gets traded to Philadelphia, the two of them instantly make magic together. 2 NFC championships in 4 years. A Super Bowl championship. You'll never be able to take that away from them. Jalen Hurts is the godfather to AJ Brown's daughter. Think about that, right? To any of you out there who have a child, or if you're a godparent, right? That's not something that happens willy-nilly. You don't name someone the godfather or godmother of your child that you have no relationship with, or that you don't want your child to have a relationship with. It's not how it works, right? And again, that's why I say you kind of need to be of a certain age to really know that and understand and empathize with what I'm saying, but you know that it's the truth. This is a strong friendship that's on the fritz, clearly. Brandon Graham, the great Eagles defensive end, made this public a couple years ago that this relationship had deteriorated. A lot of former Eagles, including Donovan McNabb, have spoken about it. And even Jalen Hurts, yesterday in his media availability, acknowledged it. You know, at the end of last season, Hurts saying that AJ Brown and him were in a good place. He said yesterday they haven't spoken since then. Do you know what happened in between the end of the Eagles season, Wild Card Sunday against the Niners, and today, May 28th, yesterday, May 27th, when Jalen Hurts addressed the media? AJ Brown got married. Do you know who wasn't there? Jalen Hurts. Now, is this human tragedy? No. But think about that. To anyone that's gotten married, if you've been to a wedding, like when I got married, you can't invite everyone in your life to a wedding. But you know who you want there? The most important people to you. Hurts is the godfather to his daughter. Didn't get invited to the wedding. There's something sad about that, right? There's something sad about the end of a friendship. As you get older in life and things like this happen. And it's happened to all of us, right? Has it happened to you? Maybe it's a childhood friend that you fall out of touch with for whatever the reason. Maybe something terrible happened. There was some argument over whatever it is. Or maybe it's just you drift apart. This person goes in one direction and you go in another. Maybe it's a family member. Again, an unfortunate reality of life. And it doesn't mean that you root against that person or that you hate that person. I have people in my life, former friends of mine. We don't talk anymore. And some of them I'm a little annoyed with. I'm sure some of them are annoyed with me. I'm far from perfect. I can be really annoying. I understand. I would hope that those people don't root against me, that they don't hate me. I don't root against them, and I don't hate them. And that's the sense I get with this. Two former friends, and for whatever the reason, and it's been painted kind of by AJ Brown publicly as two alphas that have butted heads and that want the best and try to bring the best out in each other, and it hasn't worked. And it feels like that may be the reason for the deterioration of this. It's clear that Hurts does not dislike AJ Brown and doesn't root against him. Talked about what a beautiful family he has and what a beautiful ceremony this was, and wishes him and his wife and their family the best. And you get the sense that AJ Brown feels the same way about Jalen Hurts. And now, AJ Brown will in all likelihood go to New England, where he's going to get something that he didn't get in Philadelphia. And I'm not even talking about friendship here. But AJ Brown is a different dude that marches to the beat of his own drum. Do you remember, after the Eagles won the Super Bowl, not that long ago, a couple days passed, and AJ Brown puts up this weird thing on social. I guess it's weird to me, but to him it's not weird. Which, and I'll paraphrase it, right? I thought this would feel different, winning a Super Bowl. I thought I would be more fulfilled. I'm paraphrasing. It's not exactly what he said. AJ Brown derives his pleasure on the football field, not necessarily, and I'm not insinuating he doesn't want to win, but what's more important to AJ Brown, like the reason why he puts the cleats on, right, is to dominate the person in front of him. That's where he derives his pleasure, is domination. It's not necessarily winning a chance. And again, that doesn't mean he doesn't want to win, but he said it. That's more important to him. And Jalen Hurts couldn't support it. You definitely get the sense, right, that Drake May will be able to support that. And Mike Vrabel will be able to support that. And that may very well be the reason that a friendship, a bond, a brotherhood, and not just your average run-of-the-mill friendship, a friendship that resulted in someone being named the godfather to a child, has drawn to an end. So yeah, there's huge on-field implications here, and it will impact who wins the NFC East, the AFC East. Perhaps it'll impact who wins the AFC. Perhaps it will impact who wins the NFC. Perhaps it'll impact who wins the Super Bowl. And there will be time to discuss that, and we will in full. But for now, I can't help but think about that 1977 Dave Mason song. I don't think these two dislike each other. But sometimes in life and in friendship, there ain't no good guys. There ain't no bad guys. There's only you and me, and we just disagree. We're about 4 or 5 days away from AJ Brown no longer being a member of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're just getting started here on this tremendous Sports Thursday. You better you bet on Westwood One Sports. Sal Paolantonio will join us next hour to talk about the AJ Brown saga and more in the NFL and, of course, in the NFC East. But on the other side, I'm going to get you set for Game 6 tonight of the NBA Finals of the Conference Finals, Western Conference Finals, with the Thunder and the Spurs. I've got some questions that need to be answered, and we will do that for you next.
got to take more than 15 shots, even with the free throws. And, yeah, he's going to have to score more than 20 points for sure. And
so is that his aggression or game plan or combination of both?
Yeah, combination of both for sure. OKC did a good job. We got to do a better job.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports.
This segment on You Better You Bet sponsored by Progressive Commercial Insurance, protecting your business vehicles 24/7. See if you can save at progressivecommercial.com, progressivecommercial.com. Every time I hear Mitch Johnson talk, it's different when you're watching him at a press conference, you know it's him. He sounds just like Doc Rivers. If you close your eyes, I'm like, is that Doc Rivers talking? Why is Doc Rivers talking about Victor Wembanyama's shot selection in Game 5 of the Western Conference Final? So that's the voice of San Antonio Spurs head coach Mitch Johnson as it concerns Wemby. Game 6 tonight, Western Conference Final, as the San Antonio Spurs host the Oklahoma City Thunder. At BetMGM, the Spurs a 3.5-point favorite in the game, the total at 219.5. At around midnight tonight, Eastern Time, we are going to know if either the NBA Finals are set, and it'll be Thunder Knicks, or if we're going to have one of the most anticipated Game 7s ever, and probably, and I know we had a Game 7 of the NBA Finals last year, the Thunder Spurs Game 7 is up there with like Cavs Warriors in 2016. I guess you have to put Thunder Pacers up there because it was the finals, but I think you understand what I'm saying. So we're either going to have the finals set, or we are going to get to look forward to an epic Game 7 on Saturday night. I have 4 points as it concerns this game. And the first one has to do with what I just said. An epic Game 7 on tap. Will it be? Game 1 of this finals, Western Conference Final, was through the roof. Is it one of the best basketball games of our lifetime? It is, right? Double overtime, Wemby's unbelievable, Spurs win. Had everything you wanted in a basketball game. All the drama, the star players. It was sick. Since then, series has kind of been a dud in terms of quality of game. 2, 3, 4, 5, had its moments. Nothing has come close to reaching the dizzying heights that we had in Game 1. Perhaps that changes tonight. And if it doesn't change tonight and the Spurs win, I'm hoping we get a better game on Saturday night in Game number 7. Point number 2. What's the expectation for Victor Wembanyama tonight? After his 4 for 15, 20-point performance in Game 5 that I compared, I believe correctly, to Michael Jordan's Game 5 of the 1989 Eastern Conference Final against the Pistons. Will Victor Wembanyama touch the ball more down low? Will Mark Daigneault outcoach Mitch Johnson and draw Victor Wembanyama out? How aggressive will Wemby be? And in being aggressive, will he be pressing? He's 22 years old. I think that we collectively, including me, probably forget that sometimes because of the heights that he's reached so early in his career. He's 22. Like when I was 22, I'm getting high playing Madden all day. I guess I was working also, but you know what I'm saying. Wemby's in Game 6 now of the Western Conference Final as one of the best players, if not the best player in the league. What's his bounce back going to look like? Number 3. Will Shai Gilgeous-Alexander be the best player in the game tonight? He's the 2-time reigning NBA MVP, reigning NBA Finals MVP. SGA wants to make a statement ahead of the finals that he's the best player and the Thunder are the best team, and forget about all the Knicks praise and hype from me and others. Be the best player in the game tonight. And if he is, the Thunder are going to win. And the last point. Admittedly, a small sample size here, and I admit that. Kind of like Garrett Cole admitted last night, hey, he's been great in 2 starts, small sample size. We'll do a little Major League Baseball later in the show. In this era of Thunder basketball, the last couple of years, OKC 0-3 in Game 6s. Lost to Dallas in Game 6 a couple of years ago that eliminated them, and then last year, lose Game 6 on the road in Denver in the second round before winning Game 7. Lose Game 6 on the road in Indiana in the finals before winning the championship in Game 7. History says, now it's recent history, but history says the Spurs are going to win tonight and force a Game 7. I'll tell you who I like to win at the end of the show. And on the other side, we'll find out who Justin Termine from NBA Today on SiriusXM NBA Radio likes tonight and moving forward in the NBA Western Conference Finals and the NBA Finals here on You Better You Bet.
win from a return to the finals. And epic Game 6 awaits us on Thursday night.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports.
Be part of the playoff action when you bet with boosted odds. Activate your odds boost token for any bet on the NBA playoffs, and you'll receive a bigger payout if your bet wins. Get ready for tip-off with BetMGM. Download the BetMGM app today. Mike Tirico on the call there, joining us right now to talk all things NBA. Man, he's been in the news this week as an all NBA voter and a voter on NBA awards. Our friend Justin Termine, the star of SiriusXM NBA Radio, NBA Today, weekdays 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern on NBA Radio, and on YouTube, youtube.com/Termine Radio, as Termine crashes out. It's good stuff. Did not vote Victor Wembanyama first team All-NBA, and JT, people got very, very upset with you, my friend, which I think is probably something that's not unique to you in your life. Thanks for joining us. How's it going?
He's doing well, and yeah, there were a lot of people that were very, very upset with Termine, but Termine doesn't necessarily care because he only cares what his family thinks and whoever he's trying to make out with from the opposite sex. And I don't really think I'm trying to make out with any of the people on social media that were upset with him, so we're fine. Thank you for asking.
Oh, of course. So tell us a little bit about what went into the decision for you to not, and I know you've done it a lot on your show, but not on this show. Your decision as a voter to not, and I know that you think Wemby's probably the best player. That had nothing to do with it. Why didn't you vote Victor Wembanyama first team?
I think Wembanyama now is the best player in the world after what's happened in the postseason. I thought he was the second best center this year behind only Jokic. I voted for him third MVP. I think he's a better player than SGA. I didn't like the lack of minutes. That's the only thing that dropped him behind SGA in the MVP voting. As far as the All-NBA, I vote by position. That's the way it was done the first 77 years of the league. That's the way I think it should continue to get judged. And I'll give you a couple of different explanations as to why. You look back at Wilt and Russell. Wilt and Russell couldn't make first team at the same time. One had to be first team, one had to be second team because they both played center. So years later, we look back, we say, well, Russell only made this amount of first team All-NBAs. Wilt only made this amount. And it gets held against him in all-time conversations because it's important to count up the All-NBA accolades so you can compare guys to their peers. How did they do compared to their peers? Bob Cousy, for example, was one of the two best guards because he made 10 first teams against his peers. He was one of the two best guards. Chris Paul only 4 times. So I think that's the only way we can judge the guards from generation to generation and the centers and forwards, etc., is based off how they compared to their peers. One other reason, Patrick Ewing, 1995. Patrick Ewing is 5th in MVP voting. Patrick Ewing doesn't even make one All-NBA team, not even third team All-NBA. Why doesn't he, Nick? Well, because Hakeem Olajuwon was ahead of him in the MVP voting, as was David Robinson, as was Shaquille O'Neal. So under these rules, those guys would all be first-team All-NBA. Patrick Ewing didn't even make third-team All-NBA, so I think it makes their resumes look worse compared to the guys today when they're allowed to be on a first-team All-NBA, like we could put Embiid and Jokic and Wemby all on first-team NBA. Don't like it, so I voted that way, and some people don't like it, but historically speaking, I'm in line with the history of the sport.
I feel bad for people that are not watching the show right now. You've got some funky stuff happening with your hair right now. You got
can I explain that real quick? I don't want to put any product in it because I'm headed to the haircut right after this, so right. I don't want their gel in it. So then when the haircut, I get there and the guy goes like, "What the hell? How am I supposed to?"
Can I ask you something? Now you're big time. And I don't say that like derisively, and it's not like not like an insult, like a tongue-in-cheek insult. You're big time. You don't get your hair washed. Like no one's there to wash your hair before your haircut. Like I go to the salon, I got a girl washing my hair and giving me a head massage before I get my haircut.
Everybody's on the SiriusXM salary, doesn't want to pay extra, so it's got to save as much money as possible.
Listen, I used to work there. I certainly understand what he's talking about. All right. What did you make, JT, as a student of NBA history? So, like, you know this even better than I do, and I think I know it really well, of Victor Wembanyama's performance in Game 5 and how he's going to spin it forward.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like the fact that it didn't speak to the media afterwards. And, all guys have gone up. I saw you talking about Jordan, 89? His first trip to conference finals and he gets turned back. Like all these guys have gone through this. It's the same thing with teams, right? Like that's why you just don't see a team that doesn't make the postseason as a very young team. And then the year after they go all the way to the NBA finals and then win the championship. So you have to go through stuff like this. I didn't like his lack of aggression, right? I think that was my biggest issue with it because you see in the games that they've won, he's been super aggressive. I think it was 25 shots in game one. It was 22 shots in game four, the two that they won. The two that they lost preceding last game, it was 15 and 16 shots. And then he only ends up taking 4 shots in the first half. He takes 15 overall. You can't win that way. So he's got to be super aggressive. I didn't like the fact that he's 7'5" and he's standing 30 feet from the basket. He is 7'5", 30 feet from the basket. He's got to get in there and he's got to get aggressive, Nick. So that was, that I didn't like that. And I didn't realize the hair was going to be this bad. My apologies.
What you got to do is you got to like tuck it into your headset.
The headset. That's
like,
a good idea.
Put the headset on top of it. You got to, it looks like, honestly, it looks like you have a toupee. now you look like Stone Cold Steve Austin. You look like, for people not watching, you're missing. This is a treat. So do you expect that to happen tonight for Victor Wembanyama?
No, I think he's going to come out aggressive. I mean, he's responded every time his back has been up against a wall. And this is the other thing is like a fan of NBA history, and I'm sure you love this too. What's better than the all-time great? And again, it's very early to call him an all-time great, but that's what he wants to be. He's an all-time great talent. What's better than the all-time great with their back up against the wall, with their facing criticism, and you see how they respond? It's my favorite thing in sports, right? It's like, well, this guy can't handle this situation. How does he perform? It's the same thing like an all-time great pitcher. We've seen it with Clayton Kershaw. Oh, we want to put him in the all-time great conversation. He's got a big game. How does he perform in that spot? LeBron in 2012 against the Celtics, game 6. I think that's the greatest performance of his career. That's when he faced the most pressure. He responded. So how does Wembanyama respond tonight? Now, the issue is he's got to do it 2 times in a row. He's got to do it tonight. Then he's got to do it in game 7. And he really doesn't have too much of an excuse because he's facing an injured animal. If you can't beat Oklahoma City when they're all banged up, how the heck are you going to beat them next year when their injury health is much better than it is right now?
You bet on this Thursday. Nick Kostos and you on Westwood One Sports. Our guest, the well-coiffed and the star of NBA radio, our friend Justin Termine. YouTube.com/Termine Radio for Termine Crashes Out. Thunder are going to win the series, you think, in 7? That's how it's going to go?
I think so. Now, I think tonight San Antonio will win, but then you look ahead to game 7. How are you supposed to make and I think San Antonio is probably even the better team, especially with the current injury situation. But how are you supposed to tell me that Oklahoma City, who has the experience of game 7 last year against Denver, they win it? Game 7 of the NBA Finals, you don't face more pressure than that. They win it. So they kind of understand what it takes. I'm not sure that San Antonio does, especially on the road. And you saw some of the lack of maturity the other day. They didn't come out with the right mindset. Wembanyama is not aggressive. Then they allow the officials, who were horrific at the end of the third quarter. The missed goaltend, the ball off Chet's foot, the technical foul. It was a complete debacle. I can get upset with that. You can get upset with that, but they have to keep their cool, and I don't think they kept their composure. So in a spot like that, I would favor Oklahoma City, even though I think what's on the floor right now, the next game or two, is more talented on the San Antonio side.
Now, I say this because it's true. JT knows NBA history as well as anybody. So when I tell you this, right, and I did this a couple days, and then I saw a lot of people do it nationally doing it, and I had it a couple days ago. Anyway, just saying that the Knicks, in sweeping the Eastern Conference Final against the Cleveland Cavaliers, have now become one of 5 teams all time to win 11 consecutive playoff games. The 89 Lakers, who I think would have won the finals if Byron Scott and Magic Johnson don't get hurt against the Pistons, although the Pistons did sweep them. The 99 Spurs, who beat the Knicks. The 0-1 Lakers, who beat the Sixers 4-1. The 17 Warriors, who beat the Cavs 4-1. That's the company that the Knicks are keeping right now, in addition to having the best point differential ever of a team entering the NBA Finals. Does that, when you hear all of that from this Knicks team, who was the 3rd seed in the Eastern Conference, does that jibe with you? Do you have a hard time putting all of that together? And how do you put it into perspective?
Yeah, I mean, you have to a little bit because, so I'll give you the other stat that I've been using, and it's the point differential one. And I think it was 5 teams. The Knicks joined 5 other teams with 180 point differential heading into the NBA Finals. And if I remember correctly, it's the 2017 Warriors. It's the 71 Bucks. It's the 96 Bulls. It's the 86 Celtics. It's the 87 Lakers. Well, what do all those teams have in common? Not only did all of them win, so the company that New York is in regards to the point differential, all of those teams won, but there are teams that we still talk about 50 years later. It's not, oh, it was the 2006 Miami Heat, or it's the 1978 or 79 Sonics or Bullets, where they were able to win championships. They're teams that we talk about 50, 60 years later because they're all-time teams, and they have all-time great players. Jordan's involved, Bird's involved, Magic's involved, Kareem's involved, the Durant-Steph Curry combination. Those are the only teams. And then it's the Knicks. So that means something, regardless of how easy the competition has been in the Eastern Conference. The fact that they enter with that number and they're amongst those teams has to mean something.
Let's say it's Knicks Thunder. Who's going to win the finals?
Well, if the injuries are like so, if they get this and AJ Mitchell can't play with the calf, and I don't think he probably will, and Jalen Williams can't play with the hamstring injury, I would favor the Knicks. Now, if they're healthy, Oklahoma City, I would say like fully healthy, and everybody's not just playing, but they're playing at a very high level, I would give the edge to Oklahoma City. They're going to have home court. Their defense, I think, is better than the Knicks. They have more depth than the Knicks. But again, I don't think I've ever seen a team playing like this heading into the postseason. What I mean by this is something that Tim Legler said on the broadcast the other day. Everybody is in rhythm at the same time. Like, think about 2000 last year. Oklahoma City won the championship. They kind of did that despite Chet really not playing well offensively. You go back to Denver winning the championship in 2023. Michael Porter Jr. did not play well throughout that run. The Celtics really didn't have Porzingis. He was spotty at times. And when they won the title in 2024, you look at this team, everybody is playing well at the same time. I can't even, and I'm talking like 1 through 9. I'm not talking like the starting 5. Even Landry Shamet, 12 of 13 from 3 in the conference finals. So if everybody is clicking at the same time, that makes it impossible to beat them, even if they're not better than the Thunder or San Antonio. If everybody's playing well at the same time, you could beat the 96 Bulls.
Final question, JT, about 90 seconds for the answer. Given how well the Knicks have played, and we've laid the stats out in this postseason, and obviously like Oklahoma City's the defending champ there, and by the way, if they win tonight, have the same record as the Knicks in the playoffs entering the finals, this will be the best NBA Finals matchup, quality of team versus quality of team, since which NBA Finals? Have about 60 seconds here.
Oh, about quality, it was like 2016. I mean, Cleveland ends up winning it. I don't think Cleveland was that good. They were mediocre during the regular season, although you could say that the Knicks are mediocre during the regular season this year. I guess we can go there. We'll go with that one, only because of like the level they reached. But Cleveland wasn't even good during the regular season. In regards to excitement, I would also say 2016, it'd be the most exciting one since then.
Is Cavs-Warriors Game 7 2016 the best game of your lifetime in any sport? It is for me. 20 seconds.
No, just because I wasn't rooting for Cleveland to win. As far as drama, maybe it was. I didn't want to see them win the championship.
It was 89-89 for what felt like 2 hours of real time before Kyrie made that 3 to put them up 92-89. I think that's the best game ever played.
That's it's one of the worst games ever played. If you look at the last 2 minutes and everybody's inability to score, I'm like, look at the 1980s guys couldn't score. They had no skill, and then we're watching what's supposed to be the greatest offense of all time with Steph, and the
defense was unbelievable, man. And Draymond, by the way, prevented us from an all-time great LeBron dunk by a brutal foul there on what should have.
And the amazing part was that was the last great offensive game Draymond had of his career. He actually had 27 points in that game, and he hasn't scored since. So he made a deal with the devil.
We got to go. You're the best, JT. We'll catch up with you next week for the finals, I think, because you'll be there. You're the best. Thank you. Enjoy the haircut.
Yes,
you need it.
Be. All right. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Go. The hair was looking like a flock of seagulls. It's not great. Hour 1 done. Hour 2 for you coming up on the other side. The great Sal Paolantonio kicks it off right after this.
The biggest names in the business are on You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos.
Hey, this is Joe Buck, and you have done it. You have found it. You are listening to You Better You Bet. Great decision.
Hi, this is Kevin Harlan of CBS, Westwood One, and TNT, and I'm listening, as you do every day, to You Better You Bet with the most handsome single man in the radio business. A man who, if I was not married for 38 years, I might consider myself the kind of guy that can electrify a listening audience and a crowd of bystanders watching him do what he does so well each and every day. Continue to listen right here on You Better You Bet.
This is You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports, brought to you by BetMGM.
The tremendous Sports Thursday edition of You Better You Bet rolls on. Nick Kostos, our crew, and you, here on Westwood One Sports. I'm obsessed with the first hour of today's show, talking about the schism and the relationship, the human elements with Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown, as we are careening towards what we believe will be, we'll get into it in a moment here with ESPN Sal Paolantonio, the trade of AJ Brown to the New England Patriots coming up next week. And there are a ton of on-field ramifications, and there's a lot of time to talk about that, and we will. Just kind of makes me a little sad when you think about life, and it's not unique just to athletes, it's all of us. As you go through your life, fall out of touch with people, friendships evolve or devolve in this instance. And it makes me a little bit sad thinking about what was once a great friendship, and I don't know them personally or intimately, but just that kind of feels like this is deteriorated, and it's just makes me think about my life and some of the friendships that I've had in my life that have kind of gone sideways. So led the show with that. Then we got into Game 6 tonight, Western Conference Final. I hope we get a great game. Haven't had a great one since Game 1 in the series. I think the Spurs will pull it out. We'll talk more about it at the end of the show. And I can't wait to see how Victor Wembanyama bounces back tonight after the Humpty Dumpty-sized egg he laid in game number 5 in Oklahoma City. And great spot with our friend Justin Termine from SiriusXM NBA Radio, who did not vote Victor Wembanyama first team All-NBA. Just to get a piece of news in before Sal Paolantonio joins us, we have a gigantic upset at the French Open on the men's side. Yannick Sinner losing very early on at the French Open at Roland Garros. He apparently got dizzy in the third set when he looked like he was gonna sweep, was gonna win in 3 sets. He has lost in 5 sets. So Yannick Sinner out at the French Open at Roland Garros. We know no Carlos Alcaraz on the men's side. That is a devastating blow for interest in this tournament moving forward, with Alcaraz out with the wrist injury and Sinner getting bounced early from the tournament. More on that coming up a little later in the show. But joining us right now, and what an honor and a treat this is, because he's been doing this for as long as I've been watching the National Football League. A legend in the NFL media space. National NFL correspondent for our friends at ESPN. And I believe that he's the smartest guy in the room. And I say that because he's not on social media. The legendary Sal Paolantonio joins us. A fellow Paisan. I love that. Sal, welcome to You Better You Bet. Nick Kostos, Westwood One Sports. How's it going, my friend?
Nick, it's great to be with you this morning. First time that you and I are on the air together, and love the excitement that you bring the show. Love the energy, and I'm a big tennis fan, big tennis player, and used to cover tennis for ESPN before we got the rights to the U.S. Open and Wimbledon. So I was at Wimbledon and U.S. Open. I've never been to the French, but Sinner being out means there's a direct line, a railroad track. Joker's on his way to another title, I believe.
So I think I love that that's the way you framed it, right? Because you're actually 100% right about that, because in my head, I'm thinking, okay, no Alcaraz, that kind of dulls the interest a little bit. And my thought was just going to be, and we had Patrick McEnroe on the show last week, Sal, Sinner's just going to cruise to a victory here at Roland Garros. And now he's out, and you're actually 100% right, where you have to imagine with the way the media works, this is how I'm going to work moving forward. It's basically all Novak Djokovic. And if you're a tennis fan, you do what we do for a living, you kind of need Djokovic to make it to the very end, right?
Well, I think the thing about what this French Open is all about is the heat in Paris has been overwhelming. A lot of these players, you see them cramping up, falling to the ground, getting treatment in the middle of matches, which you don't normally see at Grand Slams, especially in Paris, where it has been unusually rainy and windy the last couple of years. But this year, the heat has been in the 90s, mid-90s, and it's been the hottest day in Paris, I think, on May 26th ever. where it went up to 92 degrees. So that has been affecting the play. And the guys who are the youngest or the fittest, I think, are going to go all the way through it. You would think Sinner, a guy who is incredibly fit as a tennis player, would have had no problem. But if it's affecting him, of course, Joker being one of the older players, the oldest player probably in this draw left, he's going to have to fight through some of these young guys who are incredibly fit.
So just yes or no, Anson, you could expound upon it a little bit. It sounds like based on that answer, you said this is a tournament for the youngest and the fittest. Novak Djokovic may be the greatest of all time, but does not fall under that particular umbrella, at least the young part. It sounds like you don't think Djokovic is going to win based on that. Fair or unfair?
I think he's going to win. I do. I do think he's going to win. I think he's still a great shot maker. He's still got that great serve. He's in great shape. He's savvy. He knows how to win there. And he knows how to win those 5 setters. He knows how to outlast the opponent. So I kind of like him going forward, winning this whole thing.
And if he does win, that's 25 Grand Slams, and he will pass Margaret Court, right, who he's tied with for 24 all time. Pretty fascinating stuff. Djokovic, great. And I saw an interview with Rafa Nadal recently where he said Djokovic is the best ever. So this is going to be, you're right, the Novak Djokovic Invitational now at Roland Garros for the next couple weeks at the French Open. All right, it's 10:06, and we've been talking tennis. Let's get to the National Football League here, Sal. And I led the show today with Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown off of Jalen Hurts and Drake May's comments yesterday. You know, we've been expecting this to happen for quite some time. Your colleague at ESPN, Adam Schefter, made it sound like this is a fait accompli, that AJ Brown next week, literally next week, will be a New England Patriot. Where are you at here on the trade talks with AJ Brown, the Eagles, and New England? And is that your expectation, and why?
Well, I'm a great believer in whatever Adam Schefter says. He's got great sources, and, he's the godfather of the insiders. So without a doubt, if he's saying that this trade is going to go down, and I believe that it will, and that A.J. Brown will be a New England Patriot. Now, I heard what you said in the open, that you're kind of sad because of what's happened between A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts. And I think there was an element to that early on, that this friendship and the fact that they were great teammates together and won a Super Bowl together, and now they're going their separate ways. It's sad. And I'm a great believer that in any organization, and I was in the military, that you have to have shalom in the home. You have to have peace in your own house in order to be successful in what you do, in your business, in your job, and in your profession. And I think at this point, both of these players, Jalen Hurts, and I know them both well and have interviewed them many times, and A.J. Brown, both of them have moved on and are ready to move in the next chapter. They made beautiful music together. They won a Super Bowl. They both made a lot of money together. They had a great friendship for a long period of time. But I think A.J. Brown clearly wants to move on. I think there was a time, Nick, when the Eagles were trying to convince him to stay, because he's really been the driver of this more than anybody else. He's the one that wanted to be traded early on. And I think he's reached the point where he's ready to move on. And Jalen Hurts, if you heard him yesterday talking about his new offensive coordinator, Sean Mannion, he's ready to move on as well, and talking about, congratulations to A.J. Brown. He got married. Again, beautiful thing for him to have a married life now, going on to his next venture in the National Football League. We wish him nothing but success.
I loved that from Jalen Hurts. And just like, I'm a little saccharine as a human being sometimes. Like that Dave Mason song, like we just disagree. Like they don't dislike each other, but sometimes in life you disagree, and it's time for people to move on. Now, just to stick with the Eagles for a second, and Sal, just for some context, because the audience knows this about me, I'm a huge Jalen Hurts fan. And I've defended Jalen Hurts where I feel like some of the criticism is fair, but I feel like a lot of it's unfair. But even with me being the Hurts defender that I've been, I think it's fair to acknowledge the questions that exist right now facing him in this offense this year, right? With Sean Mannion, the young play caller, introducing a new scheme, and minus A.J. Brown from the offense, and can Devontae Smith be the number one, and can Hurts get the ball over the middle of the field to Mekhi Lemon and Eli Stowers? I think it's going to be fascinating to watch the Philadelphia Eagles offense. How do you kind of see it heading into this season here? New play caller, no A.J. Brown, and it feels like the microscope, Sal, right, wrong, or indifferent, is really going to be on Jalen Hurts.
And Nick, Jalen Hurts has been asked to do something that no other quarterback in NFL history has been asked to do. Change offensive coordinators and signal callers every single year of your professional experience, of your professional career. No one else has done that. And no one else has also done that while going to 2 Super Bowls and winning one. And if the defense makes a stop against Kansas City in the original Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts would have not 1 but 2 MVPs in a Super Bowl. So to me, I don't have any time for people who plant a microscope and criticize Jalen Hurts over and over again. I think that's wrong-headed. I think it's misguided. Now he's got an exceptionally difficult situation that he's going into this year. Sean Mannion is changing the nomenclature of the offense, the blocking schemes of the run game, and wants Jalen Hurts to go under center more this season. I mean, asking Jalen Hurts to go under center is like asking Miles Davis to play violin. It's crazy. This guy has already accomplished so much in the National Football League. Sean Mannion should take his offense and mold it to what Jalen Hurts needs and wants to do, not the other way around.
Do you think he'll do that?
I think there will come a time where they'll figure out some kind of simpatico here. They'll figure out, okay, this is what Jalen Hurts can do and wants to do. This is what's successful early on, and this is not working. So we have to throw this part of it out. I think the bottom line is having Jalen Hurts under center more is going to help the Eagles. But forcing him to be under center, if he's uncomfortable in certain situations, is not the way to go. Because as he said yesterday, we've already had a lot of success here. Read what he said and watch the video of what he said. We've already had a lot of success here. We've already been very good here. So it's clear he understands. He has to accept the changes that are taking place. He has to understand that this offense will be different. They will control the middle of the field in the passing game differently, and they will attempt to do that with him. They'll attempt to make him a better long ball passer. They will attempt to have the running game come out of under center instead of in the shotgun. That is going to give them, I think, a little bit more of an edge because of what Saquon Barkley can do. I think this team this year is in a great position. You look at the Eagles. Nick, when I look at
that's so interesting because I was actually going to ask you, like, are you optimistic about this? It kind of sounds like you are. Tell us why. I think this is really interesting.
It's not a question of being optimistic or pessimistic. I look specifically at 2 things that the NFL season begins. 1 is strength of schedule. 2, what's the play of the quarterback? Who is the quarterback? How is that quarterback playing? How is that system helping the quarterback get the team into the end zone? Because it's all about scoring points right now in the National Football League. Last year, in the NFL, teams scored an average of 25.3 points per game. That's the highest in 5 years. So you need to score points in the NFL right now to be competitive, 1. And 2, you need not to turn the ball over, especially late in games. And that means the quarterback can't turn the ball over. Why? Because 73 games, Nick, were decided by 3 points or less last year. That means games are being decided in the fourth quarter or overtime. 73 by 3 points or less, that's the most in NFL history in a single season. So the quarterback, is he putting the team in the end zone? Are they scoring points? Is he not turning the ball over? So let's look at the Eagles. This season, the Eagles had the easiest strength of schedule of any of the NFC teams that made the playoffs last year. Period. Full stop. Next sentence. Let me repeat how important that is. This season, the Eagles have the easiest strength of schedule of any of the NFC teams that made the playoffs last year. The Eagles are set up, if they do things right, if they mold this new offense to what Jalen Hurts can do with their playmakers that they now have on this offense, they are set up to win the division for a third straight year, and they are set up to be the number one seed in the NFC.
Wow, I love that that's where you went at the end there, because I did this yesterday on the show in the wake of the Josh Jacobs situation, and I like so many teams in the NFC this year. I think it's such a wide open conference, and I hadn't really considered, will the Eagles just be the best team in the conference? Is that going to happen? I think it absolutely could. You bet on this Thursday, Westwood One Sports. Nick Kostos joined by the legendary Sal Paolantonio, national NFL correspondent for our friends at ESPN. If we're going to stick in the NFC East, it is a division right now that is jam-packed with juicy storylines with the other three teams. I actually want to go to our nation's capital here and talk about the Commanders for a moment, because I'm going to do this a little later in the show. So Javon Kinlaw, speaking to the media yesterday at Commanders OTAs, is talking about this new look defense, right, with Odafe Owe and Caleb Chason and Sonny Styles, and I agree with that, Sal. My concern with the Commanders is more on the offensive side of the ball with Jaden Daniels, not him specifically, but what's around him. And they have, a lot of talk about Sean Mannion. How about David Blau, young offensive coordinator for Washington? Where are you at here with the Commanders? NFC title game year 1, down season last year, entering year 3 with Daniels and Dan Quinn.
Yeah, let's look at that, because look at 3 of the teams in the NFC East of the 4 have new offensive coordinators, and you mentioned David Blau. And David Blau comes out of the Sean McVay, Kevin O'Connell sort of permutation of that West Coast offense. So he is a smart guy, first of all, very smart, young. I believe David Blau will be an NFL head coach someday, and someday very soon. And I think he'll be good for Jaden Daniels. But Jaden Daniels will be good for him as well. If Jaden Daniels is healthy, and if Jaden Daniels does what he does best, which is when he gets out of the pocket, keeps his eyes downfield, and delivers the football rather than take off and run, he will sustain himself on the field, because the most important ability is reliability. He's got to stay on the field. Same thing goes for Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart's got a 3-headed monster running that offense. He's got Greg Roman, he's got Brian Callahan, and he's got Matt Nagy. So he's got 3 different guys that are going to try to put different influences in that offense. But the most important thing, and you heard him talk about this last week, the first thing that happened when he sat down with Brian Callahan in the quarterback's coaching room, they sat down and they looked at the tape of every single one of Jackson Dart's plays last year. And Dart talked about this and said the first thing that Callahan told him was, you have to take care of yourself on the field. You have to learn to get out of bounds. You have to learn to slide, because we need you on the football field. Don't forget, Jackson Dart has been checked for concussions 5 times. He's already missed 2 games with concussions. He can't afford this year to get concussed. He needs absolutely to take care of himself. So you have 3 different teams, unbelievable, in the NFC East with new offensive coordinators, quarterbacks being coached differently with new systems. Talk about wide open. I do believe it's wide open, but the easiest schedule the Eagles have, I think, will help Philadelphia.
And Sal, this now takes us to the one NFC East team, and this almost never happens, right? We're going to talk about the 4 teams in the division. At least the second one is usually the Dallas Cowboys. So let's talk about them right now, who Brian Schottenheimer, and I love Clayton Adams. I'm guessing you do as well, the offensive coordinator for the team, even if Schotty's the one pulling the strings ultimately. Yeah. I have, Sal, me personally, a ton of optimism around this team this year. I actually love Schotty. I didn't think I would, but I love Schotty as the head coach of this team. The defense, I don't want to say they're going to be better. I'll phrase it as can't be worse to go along with that offense and this offensive line. And they're my early selection. I think you'll disagree, to win the NFC East this year. What is your level of confidence? And with all your connections around the league, kind of the overall level of confidence around the Dallas Cowboys entering this season?
Well, they've got to get better on defense, especially on the back end. They got to put more pressure on the quarterback, and I believe they will blitz more as a result of the changes that they have going on defense, because I think they have to take more chances. They have to take more chances. They have to blitz the quarterback more, and they have to protect on the back end more. They gave up way too many points last year, and they can't do that in the NFC if they want to survive all the way through the season and advance to the playoffs. You know, the championship window, as you said, in the NFC is wide open for a lot of different teams. But, Seattle, head of the pack. LA, without a doubt. Philadelphia. Green Bay is a big fat question mark. Detroit is an interesting team to look at because
I like them a lot this year, Sal. I like the Lions a lot this year, to your point.
Detroit's an interesting, Nick, because their strength of schedule is one of the easiest in the NFC.
They finished in last place last year. I don't think people understand that. They were the last place team last year in the NFC North. Will play a last place schedule.
Yes, and so they're going to be in good shape. I mean, for all of the teams with the 10 easiest schedules, the Eagles, the Lions, and New Orleans are to me, the three teams in the NFC that are wide open to go to the playoffs because of their schedule. But with Detroit and Philadelphia, because of who the quarterbacks are, they separate themselves from the others. Things in Atlanta are always unsettled because of that. So even though they have an easy schedule, you never know. And New Orleans, their quarterback situation is also unsettled. So, I mean, Detroit and Philadelphia, to me, have the easiest path to the number one seed in the NFC, notwithstanding, Seattle is going to be very good again. Again, they're going to be very good, and so is LA, and San Francisco will be in the mix. So to me, they are the top 5 teams in the NFC.
You've been very generous with your time already. Can I hit you with 2 more quick ones, and they can be quick answers, and I'll get you out of here? That cool?
Nick, we could talk all day, brother.
Well, don't say that, because I'll hold you to it. You mentioned, we talked about David Blau, right? And you said David Blau has the potential to be a head coach and potentially soon in the NFL. I know you'll have a good thought on this, because not just because he was with the Eagles, but because of how much you know about the league and all your connections around the league. I don't know the league as intimately as you do, but just from following it the way that I do, and I love the minutia of the league, it feels like the Dallas Cowboys hit a grand slam with their hire at defensive coordinator with Christian Parker, who spent time with Vic Fangio, obviously, in Philadelphia. You had high praise for Blau, talked about maybe Mannion can really get this going in Philadelphia. Do you have optimism for Christian Parker, a Vic Fangio disciple, now calling the defense for the Dallas Cowboys?
It's so funny you should ask me about that, because I rarely get to cover games in Dallas, but I covered the Eagles game in Dallas last year. And I remember watching Christian Parker on the field pregame, warming up the Eagles' defensive secondary. And I was standing next to a former, very famous Philadelphia Eagle. I'm not going to name who he is. And he looked at me and he said, "This guy's going to be a defensive coordinator in the NFL very soon. You watch." He was talking about Parker. And so I just continued to watch Parker. And I got to tell you, I really think they hit a home run getting him to come to Dallas. He's going to instantly make them better. Great attention to detail, great connection with players, knows how to coach not only on the field but in the meeting rooms. Again, another guy you're looking at as a future head coach in the National Football League.
I love that. And I kind of I love the Cowboys coaching staff. I love Clayton Adams. I think he'll be a head coach. I love Christian Parker also. So I said 2 more. Here's the last one. And this is kind of I hate to do this, but there's sports radio here. I'm going to tell you something. Now here's the portion of the interview where I tell you something I think, and I'm going to ask you to respond to it. So look, you're 100% right. The Rams should be awesome this year. They are the Super Bowl betting favorite right now. I kind of look, they feel a little House of Cardsy to me, where if you take a Jenga tower, you pull one piece out on the offensive side of the ball, what happens if Puka Nacua goes off the reservation? What happens if Devontae Adams gets hurt? What happens if Matthew Stafford's back flares up? I don't love the depth on the offensive line. So I guess where I'm going with this is, if the Rams stay healthy, they're going to be awesome. They could win the Super Bowl. It feels a little flimsier to me, Sal, with the Rams than it does with other teams. Do you think I'm reading this correctly, or am I way off right now on the Rams heading into this season?
Well, how old is Matthew Stafford now, Nick?
Well, it's got to be, 38 probably?
Okay, so yeah, correct answer. So,
oh my God, that's the good job by me.
Whenever you have a quarterback who's 38, who's had a history of back problems, and you have the situation with Puka Nacua off the field, obviously that does look sort of like a situation that could go off the rails quite quickly. However, a lot of what they do offensively runs through their tight ends. They have really leaned on 2 tight end and 3 tight end sets, and they have figured out a way to move the ball and score points at a high level, no matter what the moving parts. Sean McVay's a really smart guy, but if they lose their quarterback, as any team in National Football League does, there really are only about, 28 to 30 starting quarterbacks in the NFL right now that you could say put them in and they can do what they need to do to win a football game. So you lose a guy like Matthew Stafford, it's going to be super hard for them to do anything. Same goes with Sam Darnold or Jalen Hurts or Brock Purdy or Jordan Love, any of the top teams in the NFC. Then things become wide open. And the same goes in the AFC. So the one team, to me, that when you look at it, they have the 3rd easiest schedule in the league. They have offensive playmakers all over the place, is the Cincinnati Bengals. And with a new head coach in Pittsburgh, new head coach in Cleveland, new head coach in Baltimore, things unsettled with Patrick Mahomes, new head coach in Buffalo, I think this season is set up for Cincinnati not only to win the AFC North, but to be the number 1 seed in the AFC.
So you trust that defense with the new additions, Dexter Lawrence and Boye Mafe, Brian Cook on the back end. Do you think this defense can be up to snuff this year after how it struggled the last couple of years?
I think they knew exactly what they were doing when they got Dexter Lawrence. What's happening in the league right now? Teams are rushing 4 and dropping 7. And the pressure they want to get on quarterbacks is right up the middle. Vic Fangio proved that 2 Super Bowls ago. And certainly, without a doubt, Mike McDonald proved that in Seattle. When Seattle won the Super Bowl, they beat the New England Patriots. They hardly blitzed Drake May, but they got pressure up the middle and forced him out of the pocket, and he had no place to go. Same thing happened with Patrick Mahomes in Super Bowl 59. So to me, you got to have a rush up the middle. I realize the Giants are going to mix Dexter Lawrence. They did get a number 10 overall pick in a trade for him, but the addition of Lawrence, but the health of Burrow with those playmakers, and they're the 3rd easiest schedule behind Cleveland, who we know is not going to the playoffs. New Orleans, we know is probably not going to the playoffs. Cincinnati's number 3, Atlanta's 4. You look at those 4 teams, Cincinnati's by far better than any of those 4 teams, and they have the 3rd easiest schedule in the league. I like Cincinnati a lot.
This interview's been amazing. I just keep thinking about the Rams and how they've revolutionized the tight end personnel. They drafted Max Clare to go along with Terrence Ferguson, still have Higbee, still have Colby Parkinson, and how every team is kind of copying what they're doing, the 9 tight ends that went in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd rounds of the draft this year. Sal, you're awesome. This was great. Even got some tennis talk in. Fellow girl dad, girl granddad. I really appreciate this, and I hope we can do this down the road. Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome anytime.
Sal Paolantonio joining us here on You Better You Bet. I mean, I don't lie to you. I have like goosebumps right now. That was great. And Sal is very optimistic in the Bengals. I can't say that I am, but listen, when Sal puts it the way he did with their schedule, he's right. When you compare them to the other teams with easy schedules, just can Al Golden get it out of this defense this year? And if he can, they're going to be awesome. That was great. On the other side, I'll give you my opinion on the Washington Commanders heading into the season. You better you bet on this Thursday on Westwood One Sports.
with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports.
We, just talk about the Sal Paolantonio interview for a little bit. It's really good, right? And yes, it is a little self-serving for me to say that. I am complimenting myself in a way, and I acknowledge that. Look, I think I'm pretty good at what I do. Sal's awesome. I mean, that was great. I loved his insight, and it was so funny because I think the mark of, or one of the marks at least, of a great answer on sports radio or sports television or when you have a conversation with somebody is when they make a compelling case for something and it forces you, unless you're like an obtuse, like obstinate idiot, a lot of people are. Doesn't mean they're bad people. But some people are unwilling to be shaken off their opinions, right? And it doesn't mean someone's an evil person or a bad person, but I don't think it's a great quality, right? Just the people. You got to be willing to change your opinion as new information presents itself. You can't be married to one opinion, right? So I've been saying for a while on this show that, well, two things primarily. Number one, give me the Cowboys over the Eagles in the NFC East. And number two, I don't buy the Cincinnati Bengals in either the AFC North or the AFC as a whole. Now, Sal comes on and gives us some really, really strong stuff. And it doesn't mean that I'm right and he's wrong, or he's right and I'm wrong. What I'm saying is he said a couple things and presented a couple statistics and talked about strength of schedule in a way that made me think a little bit. Could I be wrong with my opinions? Am I dismissing the Cincinnati Bengals too early in the process? And am I hand-waving away the schedule and what they could do on offense and the potential impact of Dexter Lawrence rushing the passer up the middle? Am I dismissing it? Am I dismissing Jalen Hurts, which I never want to do, and you know that I'm a Hurts guy? Am I dismissing the Philadelphia Eagles a little too bit? At least in the NFC East. I don't think the Eagles will miss the playoffs. I haven't said that. But I love the Cowboys this year. I'm going to spend time thinking about it. And that's the mark of a great argument, like a great case being made. You got to be willing in life. And now I am doing like a little bit of a preachy thing here, but you have to be willing in life to change your mind as new information presents itself. I want to go back to one answer he gave. And look, it's a good question by me. Just being honest. The Dallas Cowboys hired Christian Parker to run their defense. A Fangio guy coming over from Philadelphia. Now, I'm not claiming that I know Christian Parker personally. I've never met him. I've never spoken to him. But I think you know that I am just in the 0.0001% of football fans and football observers. And given that that's the case, all that I have read and listened to and watched as it concerns Christian Parker is overwhelmingly positive. And I asked Sal about him, and you could see, and I don't know if he was on camera when I first asked the question or not, but you could see it when he was answering. His eyes kind of lit up. And he gave you a little anecdote about how it's like, yeah, this guy's going to be running a defense and soon. Just think about this for a second, right? Let's say, still getting over a sickness, excuse me. Should have used the cough button there. My bad. Let's say that the Dallas Cowboys defense is really good this year. Or I don't even want to say really good. Let's say it's a 6 out of 10. Which would be, if it's a 6 out of, slightly above average, right? That will mean that the Cowboys defense has gone from like worst in NFL history at points last year to slightly above average. And what a gigantic upgrade that would be. And the way people would talk about Christian Parker. My sense is, and I didn't think that I would go in this direction. I didn't think this is a sentence I would say on the show today. My guess is that in this division right now, the NFC East, you have Let's just call it, you know what? And honestly, like, we'll see what Durante Jones does, the defensive coordinator in Washington, who's a Brian Flores guy. And we'll get to the Commanders in a second here. Like, if that defense dominates, is he going to get head coaching looks? I think Clayton Adams, the Cowboys offensive coordinator, the former run game coordinator of the Arizona Cardinals, I think he's going to get head coaching buzz. Christian Parker's going to get head coaching buzz. David Blau could get head coaching buzz. What if the Eagles' offense is good this year? You don't think Sean Mannion, who's a McVay guy, is going to get head coaching buzz? And then there's the three-headed monster offensive coaching for the Giants. Greg Roman, Matt Nagy, Brian Callahan. Honestly, kind of makes me a little sick to my stomach. I'm hoping that this goes well for my New York Football Giants this year. And just last note on the Giants, and then we'll take a break and we'll talk about the Commanders on the other side. Last note on the Giants. You know, I did my thought, gave my take on Jackson Dart and introducing President Trump earlier this week, and I thought it was a really fair and nuanced take, right? And of course, you put it on social media, and the comments that I get back are insane from people. But politics are divisive, right? And I'm basically told it's not a big deal. It's much ado about nothing. And like I said, I get it. I don't think on the surface it should be a big deal for someone to introduce the president of the United States, Republican or Democrat. But people do. So how about this from NFL Media's and friend of the show, Mike Garafolo, who joined us last week on You Better You Bet. Mike Garafolo tweeting earlier today, quote, Giants quarterback Jackson Dart addressed teammates in a meeting yesterday, meaning Wednesday, to discuss his intro of President Trump last week, sources told Garafolo and Ian Rappaport. Other team leaders spoke up as well, and Dart and the players worked through it. They are moving forward. Rappaport would add, Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Jameis Winston all spoke and worked to put it behind them. Jordan Renan, who covers the Giants for ESPN, added, sources told me among the topics discussed was keeping things, quote, internal and not airing frustrations publicly. Abdul Carter, they're looking at you. The Giants don't think this is something that's problematic now or moving forward. Okay, that's all well and good for them to say that. And I hope I'm a Giants fan. I would love nothing more than for this to never be mentioned again. Because I want my team. I want Jackson Dart to be awesome. I hope he's first-team All-Pro quarterback. I want Abdul Carter to be awesome. I hope he's the Defensive Player of the Year. I want my team to be good. I want it to go away. This was, to use a tennis term, and we'll do more on Yannick Sinner's, like a crash out at Roland Garros in a little bit. This was an unforced error by Jackson Dart, and it has nothing to do with politics. And if you're listening to this or watching this right now, and you're stuck on this being a political issue, or stuck on this being somehow being spun as anti-Trump or a double standard or whatever, you're missing the point. It has nothing to do with that. And by the way, just for all the responses I get, where were you criticizing Steve Kerr and Greg Popovich over the years? Have you ever listened to me talk and telling you that Steve Kerr is exceptionally holier than thou, and I'm not interested in Greg Popovich's political opinion? It goes multiple ways. Multiple ways. I'm not interested in it. This was a mistake by Jackson Dart. And if you want to make this political, that's your opinion and your choice. It's not political. And the proof's in the pudding. Internal meeting. It's so internal that it's being reported by all the insiders. That's how internal it is. So internal that it's been tweeted and viewed millions of times already by this point this morning. Yeah, internal. Right. No big deal. All good. Much ado about nothing. Only clowns like me in the media want to make a big deal about it, except for the fact that Giants team leaders have to address it. Not a distraction. Grow up. Not everything's about you and your political belief. And I'm not trying to take a side one way or another, and I haven't done that. But come on here. Just like, take the red or the blue glasses off and just tell the truth. Coming up next, we'll talk about the Washington. We'll go to our nation's capital, but not talk politics. And get into the Washington Commanders heading into this season, and a little more on Yannick Sinner's crash out at the French Open right after this.
we got some motherfuckers now. Excuse my language, but yeah, Owe, he can go. Charles Omenihu can go. Caleb Vaughn can go. Tim Settle, he can go. Who else am I missing? Then we got D. Wise back, and you already know he can go. We got D.A. coming back. He can go. Jerzon can go. I mean, D. Payne can go. You know, it's going to be exciting, man.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports.
Be part of the playoff action when you bet with boosted odds. Activate your odds boost token for any bet on the NBA playoffs, and you'll receive a bigger payout if your bet wins. Get ready for tip-off with BetMGM. Download the BetMGM app today. That the voice of Washington Commanders defensive tackle Javon Kinlaw, talking about the mother effers on the Commanders defense. And look, as someone who loves to curse, I appreciate that from Javon Kinlaw. Now, I don't know if the Commanders' defense is going to be awesome this year, but there's no question it's going to be better. Odafe Owe and Caleb on Chason rushing the passer. Charles Omenihu for pass rushing depth. I like the defensive tackles on this team, Kinlaw included. Sonny Styles, Leo Chenal. Like this, it's a pretty interesting defense this year. Again, no one's saying they're going to be the 2000 Ravens. Nick Cross in the defensive backfield. I like what they did here. And I think Dan Quinn's defense is going to be way better. Now, I don't know if he's going to let Durante Jones actually, run the defense. The new defensive coordinator of Washington, who comes over from Minnesota, where he worked under Brian Flores. Because look, here's the deal, right? Doing like a Biden thing here. Here's the deal. If the Commanders have a bad season, Dan Quinn's getting canned. So let's say the defense stinks and the offense is struggling, and I'm making this up. They're 3-5. Is Dan Quinn going to take over the defensive play calling? Because you can understand that a human element here, right? If you are going to get fired, you want to go out doing it your way. So I'm fascinated to see how that's going to go and if the defense can get off to a good start. So the defense is definitely better. It's just how much better are they going to be? My concerns with the 2026 Washington Commanders are actually not on the defensive side of the ball. They're on offense. And it's not a Jaden Daniels thing. I think he is a top quarterback in the league. Maybe not top 5, like I said, entering last year, but he's awesome. I am a huge Jaden Daniels fan. It's not even really a David Blau thing. Maybe Blau will be the best offensive coordinator ever. Sal Powell telling you he thinks Blau will be a head coach in the NFL. Maybe he'll stink. Let's assume that he'll be at least good. Let's just assume that, right? I got a personnel issue with this Washington Commanders offense where Daniels is awesome, right? There's no question about it. And we will see if, Josh Connerly can take a step, who was a first-round pick last year on the offensive line. He'll be playing right tackle this year. Tunsil's obviously back. I don't know why Tyler Biotish is not the center of this team anymore, but the offensive line should at least be decent. Once you get past Terry McLaurin, there isn't one skill position player that you can really bank on as being a stud. Not one. Not one. The Commanders' projected 3-receiver set right now is McLaurin, who's awesome, Treylon Burks, who maybe can resuscitate his career, but and by the way, answer to a funny trivia question. Who did the Tennessee Titans get in the AJ Brown trade? Answer, Treylon Burks, who's now on the Commanders. Didn't go great. And third-round rookie Antonio Williams. Now, maybe Williams will be awesome. Jalen Lane wasn't. Luke McCaffrey hasn't been. Now, maybe Brandon Ayuk's coming over, and I think that'll be the case when the Niners eventually cut him. I think he'll sign to play with Jaden Daniels. Are we really going to bank on Brandon Ayuk, who we haven't seen play good football in a couple of years now? Chig Okonkwo with tight ends? Bill Krosky-Merritt, along with Rashad White, Jerome Ford, and rookie Katron Allen? It's not that some of these players can't be good. It's facts, not in evidence. Like, we know these defensive players that the Commanders brought in, including Sonny Styles. I know he's a rookie. He's going to be really good. I know these players are going to be good on defense. Do we know these offensive players are going to be good outside of McLaurin? That's my question with the Commanders. It's not on defense. They got the mother effers there. Do they have the mother effers on offense outside of number 5 at quarterback? Final hour, power hour coming up next. We will start it with the voice of the National Hockey League on ESPN and ABC, the legendary Sean McDonough.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos and the crew. Presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Bring it up, Kenny. Final hour. Power hour. You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports. Nick Kostos, our unbelievable crew, Sean McDonough, and you. The Power Hour and every hour here on You Better You Bet, brought to you by BetMGM. Make it legendary by downloading the BetMGM app and visiting BetMGM.com. Coming up about 20-25 minutes from now, friend of the show, Anthony Dubbundo, superstar over at The Ringer, will join us to talk about the World Cup, which is like 3 weeks away. Awesome. The Champions League final on Saturday with Arsenal and PSG, and Yannick Sinner's crash out in the second round of the French Open. In case you missed it, Yannick Sinner loses in the French Open this morning to Cerundolo, the Argentine, so he is out. All roads for Novak Djokovic at Roland Garros, with Alcaraz not in the tournament and Sinner now out. We'll get to that with Anthony Dubbundo coming up in a little bit. All our bets for tonight will close the show. But joining us right now, always an honor and a privilege to welcome into the program the legendary, the great, the voice of the Stanley Cup Final this year on ABC. Obviously does great work for our friends at ESPN as well. I love him, and great. It's maybe my favorite college football team. We love our friend Sean McDonough, who joins us now again ahead of calling the Stanley Cup Final on ABC. Sean, welcome back to the show. Your pal Nick Kostos. How are you on this Thursday morning?
I'm doing great. I'm a little surprised to hear the news about Sinner. Being a big tennis fan, was looking forward to watching him. Now I guess that won't be happening. And without Alcaraz too. Wow, a lot of star power gone, but I'm great. A few days away from the Stanley Cup Final, so how could I be any better?
I want to get to hockey in a second, but we had Sal Paolantonio on the show last hour, one of your colleagues at ESPN, right? And we're going to do an NFL interview, and he's a huge tennis fan also. And I talked with him about Sinner, so I want to ask you as a tennis fan this, because, when Alcaraz and the wrist injuries announced he's going to miss Wimbledon also, which stinks, obviously, because he's so electric and he's a great young player in the sport, could go down, probably will go down as an all-time great. So Alcaraz doesn't play in the tournament. Sinner's bounced in the second round, and my mind immediately goes to, well, this tournament feels like it's lost a lot of luster. And then Sal Pal goes, and he's right, now it's Djokovic's tournament. And it feels like that's going to be the story now, is going to be Djokovic. And can he get one more? Can he get to 25? So when I say that to you, Sean, are you like, yes, this is the Novak Djokovic tournament, and that gets you really amped up now for Roland Garros?
Yes, it probably is his tournament. I would not disagree with my pal, Sal Pal. I think it's disappointing those other guys aren't in it. I've been privileged, being around sports my entire life, to be at a lot of great sporting events. I went to Wimbledon a few years ago as a fan and saw in person that Djokovic Alcaraz final that went 4 hours and 42 minutes. Ordinarily, I have a short attention span, and sitting in one place for that long. But I could have watched that for another 4 hours and 42 minutes. I mean, the athleticism, their athleticism doesn't really come through on TV, and I don't think how hard they hit the ball, it comes really through on TV either. There's so many times when you're in person, you think, well, the other guy's not getting that back. Oh, not only did he get it back, but he had even a better shot than the one he just retrieved. So it's a shame they're not there, but Djokovic is awesome. I mean, I think the thing that I appreciated watching him a couple of years ago in person is, what phenomenal shape they're all in, right? You can't play tennis like they do now. But he's a tank, and it wouldn't surprise me if he won the whole thing again, especially with those two guys gone.
And that's the 2023 epic Wimbledon final. Alcaraz winning the final set 6-4 over Djokovic, 4 hours, 42 minutes.
Unbelievable sporting event. The hard thing at Wimbledon is, it's kind of in this neighborhood where it's hard to get in and out of. And so the nice gentleman who had driven us out there, we had arranged for him to come pick us up at a little place around the corner. And you have to keep the tennis, you never know. Hey, pick us up at, such and such a time. You don't know how long it's going to be. So it was fun to keep texting him, well, it's going to be at least another, 45 minutes.
Right.
So, but yeah, great stuff. The tennis today is so great. All those guys we've talked about are just incredible to watch, whether it's on TV or in person.
Just like, I'm just a huge sports fan, and I know you are as well. Just like last night, we will do a ton on the National Hockey League. Just, you've called so many great events. You've been to so many great events. I've had the privilege of seeing a lot of great tennis events in person, most notably at the U.S. Open, because I'm from Queens, so I would go a lot when I was a member of the media as well. A great tennis match has to be up there with the other great sports and great sporting events to attend. When you're at a great tennis match, it is really through the roof, right?
Yeah, it is. And as I said, that match that you just mentioned, 2023, I always lose track of when things were.
23, yep.
But but
I Googled it while you were talking to make sure, just to be clear. I Googled it while you were talking.
Well,
I do want to say
appreciate that. Yeah. And it's, it was one of the great sporting events that I've ever seen. And and then it was Sinner and Alcaraz in the French Open final. Was that last year? Yep. I remember texting Brian Anderson, who was calling it for TNT, saying wow, you're so lucky. This is one of the, that might have even been a better match than the one I saw in person at Wimbledon. And then just to add to it, the atmosphere of being at Wimbledon, I've had a chance to go to the U.S. Open as well. They're two entirely different experiences, right? But they're still really cool in their own way. But if there's a better sporting venue in the world than Wimbledon, especially if you love tennis. But even if you don't love tennis, just to walk through the grounds and sit there and be a part of that atmosphere. Hey, and there's Prince so and so over there.
So like David Beckham sitting next to you or something, or like with Tom Cruise.
Yeah, great
tennis
match
wild.
is great.
Stanley Cup Final is going to be great. And before we break it down, I love that I get to ask this question. And I know just from interviewing you a number of times now that you never take this stuff for granted. And I think it's the coolest thing. You're getting set to call another Stanley Cup Final. How does that feel?
Awesome. You're blessed beyond measure. It's right. As you said, I never take it for granted. I feel fortunate every time. Even just these last few days, right? To get to do, I grew up huge Boston Bruins fan, the heyday of Bobby Orr. I was very young. And I hated the Montreal Canadiens, right? They ruined my childhood. They really did. But now to go to Montreal, that great city, be in the Bell Center, to do Stanley Cup playoff games there, and the torch coming out, and the anthems in French, and this never gets old for me. People say, how much longer do you want to do this? Well, why would I stop? I love doing it. I'm the luckiest guy on earth to be able to do this. To be in Vegas those last couple nights and have the atmosphere there and call what was to many people, a big upset. I think if you watch those games, it really wasn't that big a surprise once the series started because Vegas played better than Colorado, kind of imposed their style on the Avalanche. But yeah, as someone who grew up loving hockey, to have the chance to do the Stanley Cup Final, it's awesome. And can't wait to get started. We still don't know who's going to be in it, half of it anyway, and we don't know when it's going to start, but I don't care. Whenever it starts, we'll be there. We'll be excited to go.
It probably, not definitely, probably will be the Carolina Hurricanes against the Vegas Golden Knights. Carolina dominates Montreal last night in Game 4, wins 4-0. Probably Carolina Vegas, but we don't want to bury the Montreal Canadiens just yet.
I think there's very little doubt. I think I saw on NHL Network this morning only once has a team rallied out of this hole in the conference final, and I just think Montreal.
I wonder who that is. Actually, that's a great question.
I don't know. Why don't you Google it while I'm talking? We can get more.
But Bill, see, honestly, this should be the trivia question we do later. Just like, what's the decade? Bill, look it up and let us know what decade it's in, and see if we can get. I
might have misheard because in the morning you're half paying attention. But I love NHL Network. Shout out, free plug for them. It's great for those of us when we're covering the hockey playoffs to have all that great coverage and highlights and commentary and statistical information and historical stuff. They do an unbelievable job. But, I think Montreal's out of gas. And this is the worst possible team to try to play, right, when you're tired. Montreal had a 7-game series, of 1-goal games in the first round against Tampa Bay. They had a 7-game series, won an overtime game, Game 7 in Buffalo, really tough series. Only had 2 days in between. We did that Game 7 in Buffalo. It was a Monday night. They had to play Thursday to start the series against Carolina.
What a great
Carolina
game,
sitting
too.
there with 11
like,
days
what a
of rest.
great game that was, man. These games have been
that
awesome.
7th game in Buffalo?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome. And I feel for those Buffalo people. I mean, they just have more angst with their sports teams between the Bills and the Sabres, to get to the playoffs in the NHL for the first time in 15 years and then to lose the Game 7 on home ice was really rough. But a great season for them. But anyway, for Montreal, so you had the 2 7-game series, the quick turnaround. You're playing a team that's incredibly well rested. People talk about those 11 days for Carolina too much. I think we're seeing the benefit of the rest now, right? And time to heal, time to rest, goaltender playing great. So I would be shocked if Montreal was able to rally and win this series, given everything. Carolina is just the worst team to play, too. I mean, they're a hard team to play anyway, but when you're tired and, trying to fight off the relentlessness of that Carolina team defense, it's a big task.
I love, Sean, that you brought up, kind of like in an indirect way, right, those Montreal Canadiens teams. Because I actually want to reference one of them here because, I like you, I'm a lifelong sports fan. And I always try to put things in historical perspective, right, and see how does X compare to Y in the past. So I'm thinking the other night about John Tortorella, who I think this might be the most fascinating storyline of the Stanley Cup Final. That this guy last won a Stanley Cup in 2004. This could be 22 years in between cups. So I'm thinking about this, right? Like, what is outside of that, what's the longest gap in between Stanley Cup championships for a coach? And it's Scotty Bowman, who won in 1979 with the Canadiens, and then won the second of back-to-back titles with the Penguins in 92-93 with Lemieux and Yager, before obviously that great run in Detroit. And Tortorella, if Vegas wins the Cup, and obviously he takes over with 8 games to play, what an unbelievable story, becomes just the 4th coach in the history of the National Hockey League to win a Stanley Cup with 2 different teams, joining Bowman and Dick Irvin and Tommy Gorman, I believe. Those would be the 4.
Can I write this down? Who needs our ESPN research department?
Oh, I got you. Yeah,
an NHL network. That's totally sarcastic, by the way. Our research department is unparalleled in their excellence.
I can't believe, and I know this will be a story once it starts. I think this is one of the great human stories in the last decade of sports. That this might,
I agree,
and this guy's
and especially
right?
when you add in Nick that he's a real character, right? He's kind of you get mixed opinions on him, and I think understandably so if you spend time around him. But it's fascinating, right? He's coached a bunch of teams, hasn't been in the final, as you said, since 2004. Gets brought in with 9 games to go. I mean, that was a shocking move to many of us, especially to replace Bruce Cassidy, who's a Stanley Cup winning coach himself and regarded as one of the best. But I think they felt like they needed a change in the voice. I think Bruce is awesome. He's a friend. He's great with the media, but I do think he has a shelf life as a coach with the team.
He'll get another job for sure. Edmonton needs to be on the phone with him right now. He should go to Edmonton.
They're not allowing him to talk to other teams now. I mean, I don't understand that at all. There are a few things that it's hard to argue with the Vegas organization from top to bottom. I mean, there's 9 years of history, 3 years in the Cup Final. They do a lot of things well, but I think sometimes they're their own worst enemy too, like a lot of us. And to have the unforced error after winning the Anaheim series and not talking to media and lose a second-round pick for it, and to have Torts get fined $100,000. I mean, look at the rosters of these teams and see how many great players were picked on these teams who were in the second round of the draft. So that's a big mistake. And they owned it to their credit. And then not letting Bruce Cassidy talk to the team, that's just totally against the etiquette and protocol, and I don't understand why. They say it's a distraction, really. Are their players going to be distracted? Hey, I'm out here in Game 4 against the Avalanche, but I can't believe our team's not letting Bruce Cassidy, our former coach, talk to the Edmonton Oilers. I mean, really? Is it a distraction? I don't get it. But anyway, no one cares, really. What they care about is what's happening on the ice, and they've done a great job. But yeah, Torts, he's a character. And it is one of the great stories. I think he has benefited greatly, and he has admitted this, that, the second game that he started coaching with Vegas is when Carter Hart returned. As important as he's been, the goalie's more important. Coaches are so, important up to a point, but the goalie's more important. So the fact that they had, poor goaltending by their standards most of the year, and now have had great goaltending ever since Carter Hart came back. I think they would have won. No, not taking anything away from Torts, but at a similar rate with Bruce Cassidy as the coach, if Carter Hart had been returned for him and played like this.
It is somewhat serendipitous, Sean. Bill Zimmerman looked this up, that the team that came back from 3-1 down in the conference final is the 2000 New Jersey Devils against the Eastern Conference 1 seed Philadelphia Flyers. That team fired Robbie Ftorek with 8 games to go in the season, promoted Larry Robinson, and went on to win the Stanley Cup, where Vegas trying to do not apples to apples, but kind of close to it.
Well,
is it? Yeah, the stuff is great, right?
Yeah, it's that historical nugget will come up, I'm sure, when we get to the final.
Love it. Let's talk about the Hurricanes. And I don't say this to minimize Montreal, but I think reasonable minds can agree that it's likely to be Carolina. And yes. I don't say this sincerely to minimize the efforts of Aho and Freddie Anderson and the great players on the Carolina Hurricanes. To me, it feels like this is about Brind'Amour. And people can totally disagree with that, and I understand. I find something so, from a human level, fascinating about this guy. Was obviously like an all-time great player who has been turned away so many times in the postseason, right? It looks like they're going to break through and get to the Cup Finals. Can they get one? But all the postseason heartbreak for Brind'Amour, specifically in Carolina, and now they're going to be in the finals, and I think they're going to be the favorite when they get there. What about Rod Brind'Amour here in Carolina, if indeed this is the matchup, Sean, that you'll be calling Carolina and Vegas?
Yeah, I think like Tortorella, he's a big part of the story, obviously on the Carolina side. I mean, he really is in many ways their organization, the face of the organization. They play a style that, he brought to them. They've played it exceptionally well. And as you said, Nick, the criticism, the only negative you can find is that, they haven't been able to get past the conference final. And prior to this year, when they've gone to the conference final, it has been really ugly. So, they're likely to get by this step. I do think you touched on a couple of the reasons why, and the biggest one to me is the goaltending. In recent years, the goaltending has been not as good as what they're getting from Freddie Anderson now, and he's been a part of it, right? He's kind of been an unpredictable guy in terms of what to expect from his performances. And I do think they're getting a little more consistent scoring. I mean, they're still not blowing people out. But as they're proving in this series, 3 goals is enough to win, except game 1 when they just weren't their usual selves. They've gone back to the complete blanket team defense
and
here.
And what a bounce back, right? Because they lose that game 1, and I can't be the only person, Sean, that thought, here we go again with the Hurricanes in the Eastern Conference.
I think there was a lot of that. Yeah, but they've shut that down really quickly and shut down Montreal. I mean, when you hold them to 12 or 13 shots, game after game ever since, you're back to playing your way. And then I think, Ehlers was a nice addition. He's given them another guy who you can count on for some scoring in the postseason, because that's been the other question in addition to goaltending is, do they have enough depth of scoring in the playoffs when everybody's playing hard, right? And it's going to be hard in this series. I mean, they're 2 very similar teams. Vegas is, as we saw against Colorado, team defense, do it collectively. They're getting great goaltending. So as much as it isn't always what we would hope for from a broadcasting standpoint, we could be looking at a bunch of 1-0, 2-1, 3-2 games. But those can be very entertaining too, as we've seen throughout these playoffs and over the history of the league. So I think there are going to be 2 teams that are similar, and it should be a fascinating final if it gets to that, not to discount completely Montreal.
Final question for you, and I am sure the answer is going to be no, because you are focused on the task at hand. But
right.
I have
Can I just say no
myself,
now?
If you'd like. It kind of ruins the whole thing, but you can if you'd like. Again, the answer will be no.
I'll play along then, Nick.
Yeah,
I'll play along.
So I have allowed myself over the past 24 hours to start thinking I have chills right now about this upcoming college football season and how excited I am for it and how awesome I think it's going to be. And week 2 specifically, which is the Saturday before week 1 NFL, this is going to be one of the great sports weekends, like I don't want to say of all time, but it's going to be really awesome. Week 1 NFL and that week 2 slate, I can't wait to see the games that you and Greg will be calling. It's going to be magnificent. And I say this when you're on the air or when you're off the air. You guys are A+, top of the list, king of the hill, number 1, do my Frank Sinatra bit when it comes to calling college football. Have you allowed yourself at all to think about the upcoming college football season this year like I have? I know you're about to call the Stanley Cup Final, which is why I said I'm sure the answer will be no. Does that ever creep into the back of your mind?
No, I think about it. It's exciting. I've been interacting with Greg a little bit here the last couple of days about some other stuff. And, you think about it. I'm excited about it. But as you said, my focus is really on the Stanley Cup Final. And then to be honest, I'm looking forward to 2 months of not doing much, because I'm pretty much on the road from when the college football starts around Labor Day weekend through the end of this year, through the end of the Stanley Cup Final, because we don't have it every year. We alternate with our friends at Turner, but this is our year. So, I'm on the road for another 3 weeks or so, longer than I was last year. So, by the time you get to, I think if the series starts on, I think the latest we can go is like June 20th. But I'm looking forward to those 2 months to just kind of recharge and go do some fun things as well. But, the Cup Final is going to be awesome. College football is always awesome. And Greg and I and Molly McGrath and our crew were so lucky last year. We had 15 regular season games plus the playoffs. And, I don't think we had one dog in the whole thing. And part of that is we were in the SEC all the time. And the parity in that league is so unbelievable that you really don't get blowouts. I mean, last year, Arkansas, Mississippi State, I guess, were kind of at the bottom of the league. And they were good teams. I mean, they were teams that I think in other conferences would be way more competitive. So I'm looking forward to it, of course, but I'm super pumped for this Stanley Cup Final.
This is legitimately now the final question. You mentioned fun things over the 2 months that you'll be off. What is the thing that Sean McDonough is most excited to do during his time off this summer before college football picks back up?
I got invited to play in the tournament in Lake Tahoe, the American Century Celebrity deal on NBC, and I'm very grateful to them for the invitation. So all my buddies who play in that have told me it's, Barkley always says it's my favorite week of the year. And I'm looking forward to going there and having a great time and probably embarrassing myself a little bit on the golf course. But I'm sure they won't show the embarrassing things on TV. They probably won't show me at all on TV, which I'm totally fine with. I'm just excited to be there. So that's going to be great. Going up to Montana on vacation. Should I name drop some more with some?
I would actually be
friends you might have heard of. No,
I'd be greatly I'd be greatly offended if you didn't. Please name drop.
No, I shouldn't.
I feel like you want
to. A dear friend who's an NFL coach and his even more dear wife have invited me up to Montana for a few days. So I'll probably go there from Lake Tahoe, trying to figure that out as we speak.
Enjoy. And have a great call in the Stanley Cup Final.
Man.
You're the best.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Always good to
Love
see
having
you.
Yeah, Sean
My
McDonough
pleasure.
is the best. What a guy. ABC, Stanley Cup Final. We think it's going to be Carolina and Vegas, called by the one, the only, the very generous with his time, our friend Sean McDonough. Quick story on the Lake Tahoe Celebrity Golf Tournament before we take a break, and our friend Anthony Dubbundo will join us on the other side. 2009, I'm a producer at Sirius NFL Radio. I get sent to Tahoe to cover it, to get sound, to interview players, right? And interview athletes that we'll use on different shows. Now, I'm a lifelong Giants fan. And Lawrence Taylor is playing. And I'm 26 years old, and I'm like aghast. Aghast is the wrong word because that implies negative. My mouth is agape because Lawrence Taylor's here. And I go up to Lawrence Taylor to try and get some sound for him. I'm like, Mr. Taylor, Nick with NF, whatever I said. Can I get a few minutes? And he looked at me, and I think he may have said something to the extent of, F off, kid. Never meet your heroes. Anthony Dubbundo joins us next, talking the World Cup and the Champions League final, right after this.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports.
How great are sports? I was talking with our friend Anthony Dubbundo during the break. I don't even think we're going to get to his Phillies here with Christopher Sanchez. 44 2/3 scoreless innings for Christopher Sanchez. And that insane race for NL Cy Young with Sanchez and Skeens. Shohei Ohtani, whose ERA is .82, the best for a Dodger starting pitcher through 9 starts ever. A little bit better than Fernando Valenzuela back in the early 80s. That's incredible stuff for Ohtani. Jacob Mizorowski, the Miz, he came to play. He's tremendous. So much going on in the world of sports. Unfortunately, we can't get to all of it. Joining us right now to talk about some of it is our pal Tony Dubbundo from The Ringer. Did a great podcast recently with Bill Simmons talking about Tottenham Hotspur and the World Cup. Encourage people to check that out. My friend, welcome back to the show. How's it going?
Oh, it's good to be back. We are entering an incredible period for me, for everybody who loves sports, for everybody who loves the World Cup, who loves European sports. Yannick Sinner goes down this morning. French Open is now as wide open as we've had a Grand Slam event basically in my lifetime. So it's an exciting time for the sports that maybe don't make it onto the front page very often.
So you had a tweet earlier today, and I would love for you to verbalize it for us. Putting in perspective, Yannick Sinner against Juan Michael Cerundolo, right? Am I Cerundolo? It's Cerundolo? How do you pronounce that?
Cerundolo, yep.
Cerundolo. So not like Cerundolo, the former United States men's national team player. So Juan Michael Cerundolo, the Argentine, perhaps a good omen for Leo Messi and company ahead of the World Cup. Goes up 2-0, and then loses 3-2. How do you put Yannick Sinner's loss today in perspective at Roland Garros this morning?
Yeah, I don't think it's understating it to call it one of the biggest collapses in the history of tennis. And you could even extrapolate that out to other sports too. I mean, the guy led not just 2-0, but led 5-1 in the third set. Like, he was cruising to a 3-set win. And to put into context this entire tournament, he was minus 275 to win the tournament before it started. With Alcaraz's injury, with the rest of the tour lagging so far behind him, he is the second biggest favorite in the Open era since we have gambling odds to win this tournament, behind only Rafael Nadal. And the rest of the list is basically Nadal, Sinner, Nadal, Federer, Djokovic, Federer, Nadal, and all of them except for Nadal in 2009 and Sinner in 2026 won the tournament. So these big chalky tennis favorites do tend to come home in this era. You know, the big three era, now the Sinner and Alcaraz era, but not today. Sinner has a heat problem, and it showed up in past events. He's gotten through it. He had some help at the Australian Open when they closed the roof and put the AC on. There is no heat rule at the French Open. Nothing to save him today at Roland Garros. And he completely wilted to the point where he only won, after leading 5-1, he only won 2 games the rest of the match. So just an unbelievable collapse. Could not move out there, could not consistently hit ground strokes at the pace he usually does. And now he's heading home.
Is it as easy as just saying now, with Alcaraz not in the tournament and Sinner out, it's Novak Djokovic's tournament to win, going for Grand Slam number 25?
I do not think so. I don't think there's any evidence that his body can hold up for, all of these matches on clay. He has dropped a couple sets in the first couple rounds against some Frenchmen, but physically he has not looked anywhere close to his best. And, at this point in his career, he's essentially a part-time player. I mean, he's not playing all the events. He did play Rome, but he was not getting a ton of work in before the tournament. He's basically saving everything he has for this one moment. Now, on one hand, nerve management is going to be the biggest thing, because everybody in the men's tour now sees, oh, shoot, Sinner's out, I have a chance to win this. So Sasha Zverev immediately becomes the favorite to win the tournament, but we've seen him melt under pressure time and time again. Casper Ruud is in the mix. He's going to play Djokovic in the 4th round, probably. I think that match is pretty much a coin flip. And the top 4 betting favorites right now, Hodar, Ruud, Djokovic, and Zverev, all in the same half of the draw. So somebody's got to come from the top half. Could it be Ben Shelton? He's been a guy who's had the nerve management. You trust him in big moments, but he's not as experienced on the clay with a lot of wins. So I think Shelton becomes the favorite on the top half to make the final. And I think on the bottom half, whoever can manage their nerves best. Hodar's the young guy. Djokovic is the old guy. Sasha's a notorious choker. It's as open as I can ever remember. Certainly would not be betting Zverev at 2-1, though.
So for those inclined to place a couple shekels down on a wager, Ben Shelton plus 2,200 would be the bet for you at BetMGM?
Yes, I actually think so, yeah.
I'll be
one guy in his quarter he can't beat is Sinner. Sinner's out now. He'll probably play potentially Francis Tiafoe, although Tiafoe was in a fifth set last I checked. In round 4, got a tricky matchup today against Collignon, the Belgian guy, but I think Shelton's got some upside to make it to the final.
We've had, by the way, some French guy and the Belgian guy referenced during this interview already, both of which have made me laugh a little bit. Dubbundo is the best.
Valentin Royer and a lot of journey.
Whatever, just making up Juan Pierre Escargot. It doesn't matter. No one knows who it is. It's totally okay. I don't know.
The
if
crazy
you know
thing,
this.
real quick.
Yeah.
There's one guy who's ever won a Grand Slam left. We have one guy who's won a Grand Slam in Djokovic, and 2 guys named Cerundolo. Francisco Cerundolo, actually the 5th favorite. His brother. The better Cerundolo is into the 3rd round at the French Open.
This is like when Fernando Mendoza got hurt against Ohio State in the Big Ten title game, and the other Mendoza came in. I'm like, what just happened here? So I don't know if you know this, but I'll want to have you on a bunch as we lead up to the World Cup and during the World Cup and I mean this. I don't think there's anyone, like, unless you're a former player, whatever, that knows soccer as well as Anthony Dubbundo does. So I definitely want to have you on as we approach the World Cup and during the World Cup. So we're not going to hit everything on the World Cup today. It starts on June 11th. It's May 28th. So we are almost there. So
2 weeks.
Oh my God, I effing love it, man. Mauricio Pochettino, the Argentine, the former Tottenham Hotspur and PSG manager, is the manager of the United States men's national team, made waves this week for him basically saying, like, yeah, I don't call the players to tell them if they didn't make the World Cup or not. I send emails because I don't want, when I get sacked or fired from a job, I don't want the face-to-face conversation. He's received some blowback for it. And I guess it's not really so much, is that a problem? Because if they win, like, no one cares just. How do you think this is going with Pochettino, and how's this going to go for him at managing the United States in the World Cup?
I think it is a fascinating experiment because if you even go back to the day that they hired him, my first gut reaction was, why is Mauricio Pochettino taking the U.S. men's national team job?
And you're a Tottenham fan, so I think like this adds some added weight here because he managed your favorite team as well.
Right, and not just my favorite team, but he also managed Chelsea, he managed PSG. I mean, this guy has managed at the highest levels of European soccer. Those are not typically the caliber of manager that the United States men's national team job attracts. And I know that this is a home World Cup and it's a really unique opportunity, and I'm sure he is compensated very well for his services as manager of the U.S. men's national team. But for his career arc, it doesn't make a ton of sense. And I think that is one thing that has always underpinned this entire situation for me and trying to figure out just how all in is Pochettino. He has no prior connection to the United States. And I think a lot of people are looking around like, okay, what does this actually mean? I think there are encouraging signs with the player pool, with the tactical development we saw with the team in some of the friendlies in the last 6 to 8 months. But yeah, like, I don't think anybody should be surprised when he's looking at taking an AC Milan job and there's reports that he's going to depart after the World Cup. That was what we always expected. And honestly, like, whether he emails or calls or does a FaceTime or a Zoom with the players, I don't really care because guess what? Over in England, Tuchel got pushed back for calling players to talk, so you're kind of damned if you do and you're damned if you don't in that circumstance. So I don't really blame Pochettino for how he's gone about this. He should be thinking about his future. We're lucky to have him as Americans. That's just quite frankly a fact. Whether it works or not, it was a good swing to take, and we're going to find out if it worked or not in a couple weeks.
Let's I want to maybe one more, and we'll save a lot. Like, we could talk about France, we'll talk about Spain, the reigning European champions, Argentina, the reigning World Cup holders, and in the next couple of weeks. But let's talk about Thomas Tuchel and England. So for people that don't know, Tuchel is a German is managing the English team, which is funny. Whether people get offended by that or not, like, it is a little humorous, right, that the German could manage the English team to national glory. Tuchel won a Champions League at Chelsea, decorated manager of club teams. So he's made some waves with his player selection, and we don't have to get into the nitty-gritty. The audience doesn't know who a lot of these guys are, but more just to say he's bucking conventional trends with how a lot of English managers have chosen their teams. And on the surface, I kind of really love it since, they haven't won since the 60s, so I kind of really like it here. I think they're going to... Am I going to say this? I think they're going to win the World Cup.
Wow.
What about Thomas? I'm not there yet. What about Thomas Tuchel in England as we approach the World Cup?
I think you had me on a couple months ago, and I said that England was who I was thinking about picking.
And I laughed, England, right? And I think I laughed when you said that, right?
My biggest problem with England is honestly that, like, how are they going to handle the heat? I think that's going to be a big underlying thing of this World Cup is that it's going to be hot and it's going to be humid and it's going to be a North American summer. And like, how do these European players who aren't used to playing in these kind of conditions are going to handle it? I think that's one of the biggest question marks we have. But I will say this about England. I think they're the best defense in the field, and I'm not sure it's even that close. I think they are very good on set pieces. And if you watch the English Premier League this year, you know that the meta of being successful in that league, the best league in the world, was being very good defensively and being very good on set pieces. And if you did both of those things, you're very tough to beat. Now, Gareth Southgate was the former manager of England, and he kind of went about it in a similar way to Tuchel, where it was like, we're not really sure if we're going to be able to create a ton of chances, but we know we're not going to give anything up. We know we can grind our way past the less talented teams. And then when we get to the semifinals, the quarterfinals, the finals, we're going to be right there. And look, they've come up short. They lost to Italy in the shootout. They lost to Spain in the final, but they've been right there. I mean, it's not like England have been underachieving in the last few big tournaments, lost to France in the quarterfinals of 2022. So they've been close. Does Tuchel get them over the top? That's the big question. I still don't think they have enough creativity in this team. I think they are very reliant on Harry Kane to score goals and set pieces. And otherwise, you're looking around like, I'm not so sure. But I think they're unquestionably more talented and more balanced than the 2024 Euro team that made the final. Elliot Anderson joining in midfield. They have a midfield pairing they like and trust. They have an actual left winger as opposed to just playing a bunch of dudes who are kind of right-footed and don't really fit as left wingers out there. They have, Rashford, who had a great year at Barcelona. So you have a more balanced team this year than you did 2 years ago. And I think it's hard to make a case that anybody is clearly better than them.
I love it. And we'll talk more about this and get Dubundo's World Cup pick in the weeks to come. But final question here. We have about a minute for the answer. So you mentioned the meta for a successful Premier League team. Defense, success on set pieces. For people that don't know, that defines this year's Premier League champions, Arsenal, to an absolute T, who won the Premier League for the first time in 22 years, barely getting by Pep Guardiola in Manchester City, and Pep has stepped down. Enzo Maresca, the former Chelsea man, takes over. Now, Arsenal is going for a historic double, because in 2 days, Arsenal play PSG for the Champions League championship, for lack of a better term. PSG won the Champions League last year, and with the win, Luis Enrique's team stakes its claim as one of the greatest club teams of all time. I think that's fair to say. PSG is a small favorite to lift the trophy, and that takes into account potential extra time and penalty kicks, minus 145. Arsenal, plus 115. If people want to bet on the Champions League final, who should they bet on and why? Arsenal and PSG, 60 seconds for the answer.
Yeah, so just the classic meta here is that, it's a big game and it's Mikel Arteta. So you are inclined to look toward the ability to shut the game down. And this really comes down to Arsenal's defense being, you mentioned PSG as one of the elite teams, best club teams ever. Arsenal are one of the best defensive teams of my lifetime. Metrically, the last 3 years, what they've done in the Premier League has been nothing short of amazing. Arsenal have an advantage on set pieces. I understand why everybody prefers to watch PSG, prefers to enjoy their games, says, wow, look at all the attacking players they have. I don't see a material difference in the quality of these two teams. And I do think, my numbers have Arsenal as a pick'em. Dead pick'em. And Achraf Hakimi, important right back for PSG, questionable to play in this game. Looks like he's leaning toward out. He matters certainly, too, in PSG's creativity and attack. So I think Arsenal at plus 115, 116 to lift the trophy, worth a bet. But I also definitely think correlated to the under. I think if you like Arsenal, you should be betting some kind of under here because they are going to have to shut this game down and make it as ugly and as gross as possible if they're going to win it. It's not sexy, but it is pretty damn effective. It pains me to say this. I need to go wash my mouth out with soap, but I think Arsenal are going to do it.
The total is 2.5 juice towards the under, to Anthony's point. And Hakimi, just for people, the Moroccan defender, one of the best fullbacks, like left or right backs in the entire world. Huge thing if he's out. You're the best, buddy. We'll talk to you soon, breaking down the World Cup.
Thanks for having me. Excited.
Our friend Anthony Dubbundo does great work at The Ringer, including I retweeted it yesterday, Anthony's top 25 most important in order players on the United States men's national team heading into the World Cup. All right, we'll take a break, but first, Bill Zimmerman is here at the trivia question of the day. Bill, what do we got?
All right, Nick, let's do a little NBA here because we've got Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals tonight, Spurs down 3-2. Now, if the Spurs are going to come back and win this, including a Game 7 on the road, in the history of the Western Conference Finals, 3 times has a team come back from 3-2 and done it with winning Game 7 on the road. One of them, the 1976 Suns, who beat the Warriors. Who are the other 2 times? And I'll give you a hint. Both happened in the last 30 years.
We'll attempt to answer this question on the other side and give you our bets for tonight to wrap up the show right after this.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports.
All right, quick thank yous to dole out before we wrap up the show with trivia and bets for tonight. Great job by our crew today. Bill Zimmerman, Kenny Henderson, Tyler Morales, Mike Brown, and Dan Turner. The four guests were all, in a word, phenomenal. Justin Termine, Sal Paolantonio, Sean McDonough, Anthony Dubbundo. The trivia question, in honor of the San Antonio Spurs trying to win a Game 6 at home and Game 7 on the road to come back and win the Western Conference Final, Bill, was what?
There are 3 teams that have done just that in the history of the Western Conference Finals. The 1976 Suns did it to the Warriors. Who are the other 2?
So it's Warriors Rockets 18 is definitely one. Correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now, I am pretty sure Lakers Kings is the other. I can't remember if Game 6 with the bogus officiating was in LA or in Sacramento, but I think the Kings were the 1 seed. So I will say Lakers Kings in the 2002 Western Conference Final is the other one.
And that is correct. You nailed this one.
Love it. I would have been upset if I got that wrong. Those are 2 easy ones.
They weren't deep cuts. It's tough to remember how these series play out.
But those are like tremendously famous conference finals. Lakers, Kings, incredibly consequential, obviously. And then that's the Chris Paul game when the Rockets went 0 for 69 from three-pointer and lost to the Warriors in that game. And the Warriors would go back-to-back and beat the Cavs in the NBA Finals. All right, great job by Bill. Let's get to the bets. Kenny, please drop the dope-ass beat. All right, we want you to be part of the playoff action when you bet with Boosted Odds. Activate your Odds Boost token for any bet on the NBA playoffs, and you'll receive a bigger payout if your bet wins. Get ready for tip-off with BetMGM. Download the BetMGM app today. All right, I bet the Rockies last night, and Ohtani hit a leadoff homer, and then lowered his ERA to .82. I did have the Canes on the run line, or on the puck line, which was great at plus money, but, I'm staying away from baseball for at least a little bit here. Give me the San Antonio Spurs tonight. I'll lay the 3.5. OKC 0-3 in this era in Game 6s. I think the Spurs win tonight, and the Thunder win Game 7 on Saturday night. And I'll back our friend Anthony Dubbundo. I'll bet Arsenal to lift the cup, so that is a different bet than Arsenal in the 90 minutes. You have to click on BetMGM, to get the big menu of bets. To lift the cup adds in extra times and potential penalties. So there's the 90-minute three-way, and then there's to lift the cup, which has everything built into it. Arsenal plus 115 to lift the cup, under 2.5 for the game, and I'll drink the juice at minus 130. I am off tomorrow. The great Chris Mack will have you covered on a phenomenal Sports Friday here on You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports. So until we meet again, dear listener and dear viewer, I'll be posting on social media all weekend at the Kostos on Instagram, but I'll talk to all of you on Monday morning. Until then, I'm Nick Kostos wishing you minimal sweats, winning bets, the absolute very best of luck. Our good friends Bleck and Abdallah coming up next on Westwood One Sports.